Heh.
First time.
Fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow, this fucking timeline is all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow, this fucking timeline is all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow, this fucking timeline is all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow, this fucking timeline is all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
Holy fucking shit, this fucking timeline is lit all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner. Holy fucking cow, this fucking timeline is all over. It's over. World's biggest Alex Joner.
All of my sexual fantasies involve handcuffs.
That one always gets me.
Holy fucking shit,
Very misogynistic. I jumped the gun on the audio dip. It hasn't dipped yet, but I'm talking anyway. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's going on? I have no way to turn this incredible song down. But welcome to another Thursday night. You know what that means. It means Cider House. There we go. I almost got it right.
Fantasies involve handcuffs.
A little Michael Avenatti sampling there. You all remember him. Being fat is fit-phobic. Do better, people. Do better. Too many fit-phobic people out there these days. Very hurtful. Look at these bombs going off. Those are the bombs of emotional pain you cause me with your fit phobia. Welcome to the Cider House. My name is John Ward, I think. I'm never quite sure about that, but we have the regulars with us. We got, always forget which button, Danny Kunselman in the house.
Howdy.
Welcome back, Danny. Today we're drinking what? Angry Orchard Imperial. That's 8%.
Yep.
How blacked out are you going to get? You never know how to
Yeah,
answer.
we don't know.
Jack Kentner is also here with us. Jack, what's going on?
Nothing much, just ready to bring you a great show.
There he is. He's learning. Mihaly over on the couch.
How
Someday
we
we'll
doing?
get
How we
you a
doing?
real seat and camera
still
here.
Hanging out
You
on
got
the
like a
couch.
month
Here
to
we
go.
are. Let's do it.
But big welcome to our special guest today, Rob Noerr. Rob, what's going on?
Being fit phobic, just hanging out. Happy to be here.
I learned I'm a big fan of yours, Rob. And by the way, Rob's link tree here. Give it a visit for all of his stuff. I have a link to it, I believe, in the video description. If I don't, I will add it.
I gotta commend him. There's no OF link in the link.
There's
tree.
no OnlyFans link there for Rob Noerr,
That's
unfortunately.
commendable. A lot of
But
people sell out.
I'm a big fan. I learned Jack is also a big fan.
Yeah.
And Jack would like to pick your brain, and we're just going to jump right into it, Rob. Go ahead,
Let's
Jack.
do it. I'm game.
Yeah, so I'm actually a huge fan of Rob's, alongside my college people in my conservative club back when I was in college, and we would constantly tune into modern day debates, those sorts of channels to watch Rob and debate against like leftist lunatics all the time.
Like Destiny.
Destiny, that's one.
That's one.
That's
Yeah.
one.
And I recently saw his debate with Brianna Wu and other sorts of lefties, and he, as always, dominated. But I thought today he would make an appropriate first guest, actually, to the Cider House, because I really wanted to discuss in length, or at length, political violence and quote-unquote right-wing cancel culture. And I saw that he was on X requesting shows to be on to discuss that, so I thought, hey, we have a survivor from the Trump rally.
We do.
Yeah, and he's been wanting to discuss that at length too, so I thought this would be the perfect opportunity.
So was there what's the question, Jack? You lost me. You're too intelligent for me. Probably not Rob.
Yeah.
But give us a starting point.
Yeah, well, as all of you are probably aware, like the news cycle for politics is really fast-paced.
Jack, are you running for office?
It's really fast-paced. Sometimes topics that are very worth talking about aren't discussed at length enough. So I thought that we would discuss cancel culture and political violence at a little more length that is being talked about right now. So earlier today, I posted a Twitter thread on my account.
Yeah, I can pull it up here.
Yeah, showcasing what people in our sphere tend to mean by cancel culture. And there are some old examples, there are some pretty new examples. For some, it'll be a trip down memory lane, and for others, it'll probably be...
You should be able to see this, Rob, hopefully.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for some people, it'll probably be a trip down memory lane, and for other people, it'll probably be the first time they're hearing.
Oh, right
about
here
this.
you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, we can go over these sort of briefly. There's the humongous guy.
Jack, what's your fucking question, man? Just start with a
Humongous.
question and let's have an organic
Oh.
dialogue about it.
Okay. Well, Rob.
Then we'll come back to this, I promise.
Well, Rob, when you were wanting to ask shows to have you on for to discuss political violence, what sort of dialogue were you hoping to have?
So I think that it's difficult to say this, right? Because the overarching conversation of cancel culture, I don't judge anyone for engaging in it at this point. I tried to have cooler heads prevail for years. I personally won't contact the Home Depot lady store to get her fired, but I understand why people do, because people like us told people for years, we don't think it's cool to go back through our yearbooks and try to cancel people because you have some political disagreement. And I said, cooler heads will prevail. They didn't. It's escalated. And now what's happening is the communist left, or the social Marxist left that wanted to use these tactics against you, are now whining when they're used back in return. So my personal choice is I'm not going to engage in it. I hope we could go back to a time where people could tell edgy jokes and say stupid shit and it doesn't affect their life forever. But apparently no one's going to learn that lesson until they're affected by it. Now, the question of political violence is different than that cancel culture question to me. What I was trying to say is, let me put it this way. I've received political loss after loss after loss pretty much my entire adult life. I just turned 40. Trump was the first president I ever voted for that won in 2016. I was a Ron Paul guy. Just big fat L's my entire political career. That's all I know.
You're the OG. Ron Paul was the man.
I feel your pain
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
You were MAGA before MAGA was MAGA.
That's right. And so you ain't going to see me sitting on my channel or in real life crying and saying, oh, everyone that votes for the other side's evil and they deserve it if they go to a rally and get shot. You ain't gonna see me saying that shit. That's what the left does, and that's what people like Destiny did. And I think he was just trying to be an edgelord, and he's probably depressed because of the losses that they've been receiving. I mean, it would be depressing to have gaslit your audience for 4 years that Joe Biden didn't have cognitive decline, only to see it all fall flat in its face in front of a national audience. I guess that'd be depressing to have everyone see that your hero Biden sucks. Oh, and you suck too for gaslighting everyone about it. So I guess I'd be a little depressed. But yeah, I mean, I think that in order to have any sort of discussion, there need to be ground rules. My ground rules are pretty damn simple. You can't threaten to shoot me if you don't like what I say. You can't threaten to shoot the guy I'm voting for if you don't like what he says. That's it. You want to make edgy jokes? You want to call me fat? You want to say that you wouldn't cry if I get shot? I could live with all of that. But I need to have a base agreement that you're not going to actually advocate for violence against me. And I think that it's important that people come out and say that, particularly when there's, take polling with a grain of salt. But my goodness, anecdotally or through polling, there are huge swaths of the Democratic Party that are like, yeah, we wish that bullet would have taken Trump out. Like, that's a moment to take a step back. And listen, I'm not sitting here being soy or clutching my pearls or anything like that. I've talked extensively about how the Democrats, more importantly, the establishment, will do anything to prevent Trump from winning again, including maybe going to war, having an economic crisis, or encouraging riots like we saw in 2020. And certainly some unhinged lunatic engaging in an assassination attempt was a possibility. But to see it happen is different, right? Like, to talk about it in the abstract versus you literally sit there and watch that bullet fly and you see a gentleman lose his life. That's different. And when so many people's gut reaction to that was good, the only problem I have with it is that it didn't take Trump out. I think that's a place where we need to start and say, like, we're not going to engage in conversations with those people anymore unless they're willing to admit that that was just edgy humor or they said something in the heat of the moment. And unfortunately, there's no way to really know. I guess you give the benefit of the doubt to people you personally know better. So if your crazy aunt said, tweeted out, oh, I wish that bullet would have hit, and you talk to her and she's like, okay, I was just upset. Maybe you give her the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But, the problem is when people like Destiny, I've tried to give Destiny the benefit of the doubt. I said, okay, he's making bad jokes about this firefighter Competitor that died, which is terrible, but whatever, jokes, I guess. And he's saying that he doesn't have sympathy if people like me or Trump die. Okay, whatever. But are you calling for violence? I said, maybe not. Maybe he's just being edgy. But the problem is so many people in his audience are taking it seriously. Like, I was just doing some work for a friend that's going to be debating Destiny tonight, and I clipped a little clip to send him. And Destiny's asked by his friend, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? And he's basically like, I don't know what I could say on stream. But what I will say is the worst thing that could have happened was him to be shot at and it not kill him, because that'll basically encourage sympathy for him. Now, even if he's just being hyperbolic and joking, you can see his little chat in his screen, and it's just his whole chat saying, yes, 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 that they wanted Trump to die. And all it takes is one lunatic from that crowd to say, oh, this is what the influencer I listen to thinks should happen. And so that's why I said, I think that this would be a time. I happen to be magnanimous. I'm better than 99.9% of the left. So I don't need to wait until there's a problem on my side to address it. So clearly I'll call out anyone that would be calling for violence, politicians or people on the other side. But really what I'm trying to say is I'm willing to have that conversation with people because we need people from the left right now at this moment to be speaking up. And sadly, there certainly are some. But sadly, it seems that many of the people in the spaces and circles that I operate in, debating these crazy left-wingers, they're reticent to do so. And I think that speaks volumes as to where we're at as a country. The very people that have tried to gaslight you that our democracy's under threat because people like us vote for a candidate they don't like, they're literally celebrating or gaslighting like, well, maybe that bullet should have taken out our opposition.
It almost seems like, Rob, and you said you have a friend that's debating Destiny. There's tonight, there's not a lot of lines of open dialogue between, I guess you call it the left and right. I don't know that I'd call it that, but
No.
You seem to be one of the last ones still out there engaging for love of the game is what I'd call it. You're a professional. So I get why you do it. And to sort of reduce what you said there, if I can accurately check me on this, but the whole cancel culture thing, you're not a fan of it. If it was up to you, if you were king of the world, pretty much everything would be allowed to be said as long as it wasn't a genuine threat of actual violence, because then you're guaranteeing, in a sense, that you can say what you want. I understand the logic there. The left getting canceled now, while you're not thrilled with it, it makes sense to you, and you might agree that at this point it's kind of necessary. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, I've warned the left. Now, here's the thing. Why do I engage? I engage with people on the left because I do this for one reason. Like, I'm no great person. I love streaming. I love debating.
Mm-hmm.
I debated in college. This is my hobby. It's not my career. And so that's what I want. If it was up to me, I'd debate people every night. That's what I like. And I've also learned in my real life to separate things that I think politically or culturally versus relationships I have. So being that I was a debater in college, all of my friends I met there are crazy left-wingers. And we just don't talk about politics when we hang out. We'll have beers. We'll talk about sports, anything but politics, because I know they're unhinged and they're not going to like what I say. That's okay. So I don't mind talking to people on the left, but I understand why you might not. Why would someone want to talk to someone like Destiny, for example?
Well, right. And so speaking to that breakdown that's been happening you're one of the few people maintaining this line of communication, but it's more, I think, because you just love debating. Not.
Yep.
That's just how I see it. Go ahead.
Let me ask something. So I hear a lot from different streamers, various streamers on the internet, where they'll say we would talk to the left, but they just don't come on our shows. They don't want to talk to us. But for someone like you that's able to have those conversations on a regular basis, A, what's your secret, or B, are they lying?
It's a great question.
Well, not so much B. It is true that most lefties don't want to. There's a skill set differential. So, for example, in this space, a lot of people are just clones of Destiny. That's what you'll even hear them talk like him. Mm-hmm. Like they'll start to talk really fast. And well, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you see? Like you'll see this repeated because that's how he talks. So they try to, and they're bad impressions. Destiny's actually talented. He's a talented rhetorician. He's a good debater, right? And he'll come up with thoughts that are sort of on his own. Many of these other people are just listening for what he or what the DNC tells them to say. So there's going to be a hesitancy from those people to go on right-wing shows. For me, I think the way that I get an in with a lot of people is because I'm likable. And they know that. They know that's true, that I could joke around and have fun. And they could, like, I can go on there and they could be like, you fat prick, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to take it personally. I could roll with the punches, make fun of them right back in their face, and that's it. And even many of the, and I'm good at it. And so many of the people in their audience will acknowledge that. Well, they like when they hear from me because I'm sort of one of the best that they get to hear from on the other side. And I could do so with a smile on my face. The problem is even someone like me loses out in a lot of opportunities because once you get talented enough, they don't want to deal with you. So there are many, many times where I'll reach out to a bunch of big name streamers and I won't get any response because they know that it's not going to look good for them. So what I end up doing is because I've interacted with Destiny, I'll get to talk to him once in a while, maybe one or two people around him. And then other than that, most of the people I'm dealing with are garbage. Like you saw that debate I did with Brianna Wu. Mm-hmm. That's long story short. She was one of the people in this group called Progressive Victory PAC. And what they tried to do was take a bunch of left wing and moderate streamers, pay them, and then have them be advocates for the Democratic Party becoming more progressive and winning races. Mm-hmm. So basically what you saw there was me versus Progressive Victory PAC. Brianna, I'm not so sure the other ones were in it or just friends with her. But the moderator there, Wick, is paid by Progressive Victory. Yeah. And what happened was they got wrecked. They got absolutely demolished to the point where the moderator had to try to jump in. He gets demolished. Now, what do you think the chances are that anyone from Progressive Victory debates me again anytime soon?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Right? They'll talk to people that they think they could win or that they think that they could get some benefit from. But it's very rare to want to have just a dialogue for the sake of it. How many viewers do you have? Do you have a big audience? Will this get me a big audience? The other reason I get a bunch of lower tier people that want to debate me is because that's how they could make a name for themselves.
We were just talking about this.
Yeah, this is perfect timing, honestly. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll get offers from people like weird subjects, like that's probably a niche subject. I want to debate you on electric vehicles. I had someone reach out to me a couple weeks for that. I'm like, all right, if I find time, I'll do it. And the plan is if they could beat me, oh boy, then they'll get their chance to talk to the bigger left wing streamers and be like, for me, that's what I want, though. I want to debate people and experts in their field.
That kind of leads me into my next question, actually, to be honest. Would you say your foundation is more from a policy basis or like a cultural basis?
Cultural, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't consider it's somewhere in between. So, like my friend Andrew Wilson from the Crucible is debating Destiny tonight. Andrew's more of like a philosophical debater. He's a Christian nationalist. He's very good at arguing, like, where do you get your foundations of morality? I'm not that. I'm just some regular redneck. That's who I am, right? I have some policy ideas, but I don't consider myself a policy wonk. I think that I'm just someone who grew up arguing about, like, Pittsburgh Pirates and what they should do, and arguing with my friend that's a Phillies fan, and just having arguments drunkenly into the middle of the night. I like arguing. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at learning. My strong suit is that I have common sense. I'm able to understand difficult concepts and articulate them in a way that an average person could understand. I'm able to formulate coherent thoughts and arguments and sort of understand how things interconnect. That's not necessarily policy or cultural necessarily. It's sort of just understanding how debate works. But it's not disingenuous. It's not like I'm implying like I win debates through some rhetorical trick. I just like, let me give you an example. I'm going to have a debate here in the near future about Kamala Harris, the border czar. Right now, what's going to happen is the left is saying something that's technically true. Kamala Harris was not the technical border czar. We haven't had a czar in this. I don't know if we've ever had one, but it's at least been since like the 60s since we had an official czar. So what they'll do is they'll try to say something that's true. And a lot of people get bogged down in that. Well, how do I argue against this? And for me, when someone says that, I think like this. I'm like, why are they making this argument? Why are they saying she's not the czar? What is the intention behind this? Well, the intention is they don't want people to know that she was tasked as being one of the most important people in the Biden administration in dealing with the border. They don't want people to know that because despite what they say, that Biden's administration has done awesome and all these things.
Listen to this guy. Sorry, Rob.
No, it's fine.
Preach.
They know it's shit. They know that the border's shit. They know that the economy's shit. And so they have to differentiate her for it.
That is
so
why.
What are they really,
Yep.
what are they really saying? They're like, no, trust us. Kamala didn't do shit for 4 years. That's their argument, right? And so the way that they try to ham-fistedly make this argument is, well, no one ever officially called her border czar. And the way that I respond to that's like, you're right, but they did say that she was key and integral. Biden himself said this. The media said it. And the point is, were they bullshitting to us then or are they bullshitting to us now? Because if she was a key player, then why shouldn't this be at her feet? And if she wasn't a key player, then what the hell did she do for 4 years? Right? And but the problem is people could baffle you with bullshit. So that's how I look at it. Now, did I come from that because I'm a policy wonk or a culture wonk? No, not really. Just because I understand it's, the debate tonight that Destiny's going to be having was January 6th an insurrection. Why do they use that word? What is it about that word? For example, there are federal laws about insurrection and rebellion. No one was charged with that.
Well, Rob,
so then why are they...
We actually have a clip where we can get more into that later, but I think we're all on the same page in regards to how we should handle political violence. And I think you're entirely reasonable to want to lay out some ground rules, because we, even on the left, we see that with them citing Karl Popper's paradox of intolerance. Granted, they inaccurately cite it by calling people like us intolerant when we're not being really intolerant at all. We're not calling for violence. We're not telling other people to go after other people or commit any illegal actions, anything like that. However, there is a sort of internalized debate in our circle over whether or not who doesn't, like who breaks the rules. And a lot of people seem to think that Destiny has gone off the deep end by calling, or with his edgy comments. Some people seem to think that they're jokes. But me personally, I think that he genuinely does not like conservatives. I think he genuinely believes that because Trump is an insurrectionist, that means he's fair game. That means his supporters are fair game. And so, Destiny openly wishes for...
Oh, this one right here?
Dead. Yeah.
All right.
He labeled them for you.
Jack, my man. All right, let me get this. Are they all... It's a video?
Yeah, a brief video. And then we can watch the next one.
The firefighter guy.
Hold on.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude. The firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay? Just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away or whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am. 100%. Fuck it. Fuck the dude. The firefighter.
This one?
Yeah. There seems to be a super chat.
Yeah, just quickly, John L. Wanger, there are news articles from 2020 calling her the border czar, which I totally believe, but I think to Rob's point is not necessarily meaning anything in an official way. But with respect to that video, Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, and there's also another video where he gets confronted by Piers Morgan on these comments. There's also a link to that.
Yeah.
What he'll say is, this is what he's going to say. He's going to say, I didn't say I want people to shoot them. I said if they get shot and die, I don't feel bad.
Yep.
And honestly, let me be quite clear. I think that's repugnant, but I don't care. If I would debate someone that says to me, hey, man, I'm not calling for violence to happen to you, but if it happens, I think you're a shitty person, so be it.
Right.
I could engage in that discussion. I can't engage in the discussion with the person that says, hey, I want you shot. I'm not going to engage with that. Now, you could say, I totally get people that say, I don't want to engage with Destiny if he thinks I deserve it if I get shot because I go to a political. I get that. I understand that. You have every right to feel that way. For me, the only question is, does he really want conservative shot? Does he want Trump supporters shot? You probably don't have this clip, but the only clip that I saw that really made me raise an eyebrow that I couldn't really come up with an explanation was that clip where a friend of his calls in and says, hey, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? And he says, I don't know what I could say. I don't want to Fed post myself. To me, even on Piers Morgan, when Piers says, will you condemn this attack? I'll defend Destiny a little here. He says, no, not in front of you people. That's sort of a tactic I've taken. Like, for example, I debated this guy all the time about the FBI's illegal spying on Trump's team. And he demanded from me that I preemptively condemn any attempts by Trump to have his FBI illegally spy on his opponents. And I basically said, kiss my ass. No, I don't owe you anything. You don't care that the FBI spied on Trump, so why would I capitulate to you? And so in that vein, I could see Destiny if he says, I don't like you, Piers Morgan, so I don't owe you anything. But that comment doesn't apply when it's his friend that he's talking to on stream. And he can't just say, of course I condemn it. I'm not going to tell Piers Morgan that. I'm not going to tell some Trump voter that. But of course, when I'm talking to lefties, I'll say I condemn. He didn't do that.
Rob, let me ask you this. Where's the exit ramp? I feel like Destiny's just the top of the funnel, right? Where everything leads down from that. And that's just kind of the opening to people becoming this way. So is there any reason to believe that things don't get worse in the near future?
No. What if Trump wins? If this is
That's
how they
what I'm
acted when
saying.
Trump got a victory in court, how do you think it'll be when Trump wins?
So
And
I don't think we should be firing these people, but I do think we should be remembering who these people are that are saying these things, because when things do get bad and it turns into total anarchy, they're probably the first people you should be watching out for.
My claim is this. I have my own set of standards that I try to live by, my own principles. I think that people should be held to the standards that they sought to hold against other people. And so if you were the type of person that cheered on, Gina Carano getting fired because, at Disney, or you cheered on Roseanne getting fired, or any of these other litany, okay, well then, when it comes for you, which it always predictably... That's the story, folks. All of you lefties. I don't know if you've read your history. Go read the Gulag Archipelago. Go ahead. Eventually it comes for you. What's up, Damien?
Oh, yeah, you see that. Damien, Senorita Pistols Gershwin, Ola John Champions, Rob Noerr for King, and hi, Rob from Senorita Pistols Gershwin.
I accept your advisement for me as King. I would happily do it.
Rob, have you read the memoirs of Peter Wrangel?
No.
So it is a leader, I believe, captain in the Russian military, World War I, who is his first-hand accounts of witnessing the Russian Revolution and how it happened overnight. And there's this one moment where he's talking about he's walking through a city and everything's just going to chaos, and people are rioting the streets, they're burning, people are raping each other in the streets, and it's crazy. He couldn't believe it. It's his own men that he used to control. He no longer has control over. And he walks into a theater in the rich part of town, and they're all watching a show like nothing's happening.
Yeah.
That's the world we live
it's
in.
eerie. The Soviet Union, man, it's eerie. Gulag Archipelago, it's similar.
I've got an even eerier question for you, Rob. Why has nobody on the right approached you to help in this fight?
So I'll give you my conspiratorial answer.
Yes, please.
I think there are a lot of bigger streamers on the right that don't like the competition. I think that's the God's honest truth. So
Really?
I think that, because I'm not going to say any names here, but I've worked with bigger streamers on the right when they ask me favors. And they'll be like, can you do this stupid thing for me? Like one of them was a game show on the website Odyssey. And I was hammered. Was like, sure. So it was stupid. I had to eat these, like they had these water bugs. I had to eat these bugs. I lost the first round because I was too drunk to even. It's a big spiel. But anyways, part of that was, I'll get to like, yeah, afterwards, let's do a serious show. Never got a call back.
Never hear it.
I reach out to a bunch of, there's been a lot of right wing, bigger content providers that, can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah. And then when I reach out, like, hey, I'd love to come on your show. Nothing.
I think
so I think that's part of it.
I to add, if you don't mind, I think part of it would be the archetype of a right wing person, where they're gonna be the more business minded and oriented person, where it's a cutthroat, free marketplace cutthroat.
It is, and the truth is, right, I don't necessarily bring a big audience. Like, I think my audience is growing, and I think that, like, when I get an opportunity to do what I do best, which is debate, I think the right sees how good I am. So I got to do Tim Pool's show, right? Problem was, I was supposed to debate a left-winger like Destiny, the Krasenstein brothers. There were all sorts of people that were brought up. Philip Bump from Washington
So were
Post.
you out in the castle, out in the middle of the woods?
I was at the old chicken coop. Yeah, I was out there.
Chicken
So
City.
it was fun, but they couldn't find anyone for me to debate. So I actually did the show with Benjamin Weingarten, who's cool, and he's a journalist. I forget for where, but he's very similar to me. And I thought it was a good show, but it wasn't a debate. It was us agreeing basically the whole time. And then I stayed around for Tim's night show, and it was a kind of a shit show. It was this basically anti-Israel guy that was on there, and I'm kind of like, I don't even feel like my feelings on that topic's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I just don't. I'm tired of funding foreign wars, tired of funding Israel, tired of funding Palestine, tired of funding Ukraine. I just don't care. Look, if it was up to me, all the wars would end tomorrow and no one would die.
Yeah.
But it's not
Well,
up to
that's
me.
what I find interesting, I guess. Let me circle back to the reason I asked you that question is so you're not for conflict and war, and you're one of the few people left who can bridge the communication gap between the left and right, and you're not famous.
Yeah.
You're not promoted.
Might be the beard? I don't know. No, I think,
No,
who
I
wants
think
to
it's
get-
that, Rob.
Yeah.
I think it's that you
that's a big part of it.
Don't
It
want
is.
violence, and that's not any use to where we're headed, I don't think. But
Well, this is the real to get even bigger into that. One of the reasons my channel hasn't grown is because I'm not a grifter. Because the easiest thing in the world is to say, I'm going to pick a side and I'm going to defend that side 100% no matter what. And I'm going to be lockstep with other people in this community that do the same thing. So, for example, I streamed since, I think, 2018, 2019, around there. Most of my streams, the first 3 years, was one person watching, three people watching, whatever. It's just plugging away. Didn't mind. I was doing it for fun. I built up a little audience going into the 2020 election there. Probably had 30, 40 people watching. Trump starts embracing lockdowns in April of 2020. I go nuts. I'm going to all these like events in Pennsylvania. I'm talking to all these state level politicians, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, 15 days to slow the spread. You understand what's happening. You understand that eventually they'll do this with climate change too. You get that, right? They're going to use this excuse to shut down the economy, to hurt Trump's chances in this election. No, they said. Well, when I'm criticizing him, half my chat's just like, F you. We knew you were a Democrat the whole time. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or I criticize the amounts of spending that Trump did, or I criticize Trump bombing Syria. So there are all sorts of things I criticize Trump on. And I think that makes you it's hard to package that. And so when you're one of these, bigger communities or channels, well, you don't want to bring me on and then I only agree with you on 40% of this stuff. I'm the opposite. Like, for me, I just assume if you're a free thinker, there will never be another person that totally agrees with you, and there'll never be a political party that totally agrees with you. So it's my expectation that we're going to disagree on something. And I just think that the fact that if you don't pick one of those, I'm 100% Trump. Now there's a third group of people, which I love. And that's the sort of like primarily DeSantis, but not necessarily, like never Trump Republicans. And they're hilarious because so many of them, you had the never Trump Republicans that hated him from 2016. But I love the DeSantis ones that like didn't say anything to Trump while he was in office, because that would have hurt their grift. Then they would have lost subscribers. Yeah. So they didn't say anything. But now that it's cool and popular to build your channel up being like, actually, I hate Trump, I'm a DeSantis person, now they can feel free to say it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there. I would never disclose people's names or private messages. Bigger streamers were messaging me in 2020 saying, I agree with your criticisms of Trump on the lockdown, but I can't say anything publicly because I don't want to lose subscriptions. Okay. And I'm not going to out them, and that's fine too. If that's your job and you're feeding your family because of your channel and you're afraid to lose your channel, I get it, I guess. But I think that's one of the reasons that I never grew as much because, if you're a big fan of mine one day and you hear me in here like, just bashing Joe Biden, and then the next day I'm like, here's 10 minutes on why the Republicans suck, you might be like, I don't want to listen to this guy anymore.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's your right. But
So
I
I
think that has a lot
found,
to-
Rob, I found in what you said, I think a potential first chance to stump you.
Okay.
You're clearly a strong believer in the objective truth. You seem to almost exist as an entity to pursue the objective truth, for better or worse, whether it means you gain material wealth or not. You just want to know what is true. Why not call these people out?
Which people, like Destiny and them?
No, the right-wingers.
Oh, because I don't think you have me pegged right. I don't think I exist just for objective truth. For example, just to make this as simple as possible, I'd probably sell out. It'd just take a look. That's all.
But that's
it.
objective truth right there.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like.
So that's, I guess I hadn't heard you say that, so I was curious. So yeah, like all of us.
friends and family. Like there are certain things that are beyond the objective truth.
Have you been
right?
offered a chance to sell out?
No, I'm wondering through direct messages I got if Progressive Victory was going to ask me like they asked other conservatives. For example, a guy I stream with named Counterpoints, who was a moderate conservative.
Yeah, Connor.
He gets paid by Progressive Victory, and Brianna Wu direct messaged me several times trying to make like smooth some things out, like for an argument we had, which the direct messages didn't smooth anything out. They made it worse because I basically told her to kiss my ass. I'm not going to apologize for anything. Anyways, I think maybe there was a potential offer there, but no, I haven't really. I'm not amazed that people sell out. I'm amazed at how little they do it for.
Yeah.
Like if
So you just
Biden
haven't
did-
got a good enough offer
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. Honestly, think about it. It's easy to sit here
Great.
and say like,
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
Well,
It-
Joe
it's like-
Biden, if Kamala Harris's team came to you four guys tomorrow and was like, "We'll pay you $5 million apiece," and you don't even have to endorse Kamala Harris. All you have to do is say, "Hey, Republicans, sit this one out. Trump sucks." Would you do it for $5 million? Just
I
for the
would
next 6
not.
months?
Would
No.
you guys do it?
I don't think I would.
I'm a weirdo though, but
don't know.
I think I agree that
It's
the average
easy.
person would.
I
Yes.
It's easy to say you wouldn't until that
I
money
mean,
is
I
in
would
front of you.
personally, I would probably delete myself before becoming another Harry Sisson.
We got a Rob
he's
comment
so
here
cool.
quickly. Pepe Payne. Rob, much like you, I love the art of debate. Being able to debate from both sides makes one great. Having a preference based on foundational logic is how I debate. Much love, boys. Keep on keeping on.
Thank
Pepe
you.
Payne, thank you.
Thank you. But yeah,
But
Rob.
it is. Thank you so much. It is difficult. Like, all I'm saying is, it's a difficult question. Like, would you sell it? Like,
Well,
could-
let me ask you this. 20 years ago, did you look at it this way? Have you like, and so I'm coming at something I understand myself at going on 40 years old, is strong believer in the truth, only ever cared about pursuing the truth. I very much like debating and all that, but you come to a realization probably around the age of 30, I'd say, that you exist in a world that is run by people older and bigger and scarier than you. And yeah, and maybe you don't even want to topple the system. You just kind of want to understand how it works and talk about ways that could make it better. But are you restraining yourself, Rob?
Yeah, somewhat.
You are,
But I
okay.
think we all do. Like,
Yes, I agree. I'm just asking, though. Yeah.
so there's different limits of restraint. The first limit is this. Like, I will 100% admit that I'm biased towards friends and family. Like, period. Right? So, did you ever have this situation where you have this friend and you objectively can see he's being an asshole at the bar, but he gets in a fight and you still have your friend's neck?
You go,
even though,
God damn it.
objectively you're right. So there's that level of
So-
it. And I think, by the way, that is the morally correct thing to do.
I agree.
Yep.
What is your opinion then on Chris Cuomo defending his brother and giving him airtime on CNN?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. There is a problem.
So you have no
journalistic-
problem with Patrick Bet?
Well, there's a
David
problem
hiring
with him as a journalist, but as a man, he's doing the right thing.
No, I agree. I'm
As a
just playing
journalist, it
devil's
affects
advocate,
his
yeah.
credibility, as it should. But if it was me, I love my brother.
Yeah.
I have two brothers. I love them. Like if I have a huge platform, and I'm considered which I never would be considered an independent journalist, and one of them's running for office, I'd be rizzing them up. I'd be, yeah, they're doing great. They're the best.
Yeah, it's definitely a gray area to consider because even if you're like your child is like a murderer or something, like people will still look at you as a good father if you or mother if you're still there for them.
Or even better, would you not, as a dad, would you say you killed the person and take the blame for your son?
Oh yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Well, with some caveat, unless I thought my son was like a menacing serial killer
Would
that
you
was going to kill
force your
50 more
son
people once I
to
got
face the
executed,
punishment
maybe.
and the consequences of his actions, or would you take the blame for your son?
I would try to take the ball.
I think
I mean,
that's what a
this
good
is-
parent would do.
Yeah, I mean, this is, here's a tough topic, right? Like with Epstein.
I think it's a bigger
Epstein,
punishment for like
uh-oh.
to see your dad have to go through what you should have been going through and know that that's because of you is a bigger punishment to the kid.
Are you mad?
Well, unless
Are you
you're a
currently angry
sociopath.
at your dad, Mihai?
Yeah. No. I'm just saying, like, I
Tell
think that's
us.
a good moral question. Like,
Are you watching, Dad?
I just
He's
think it's a
I
good-
think fathers
You
should
doing
have to
all
be
right?
punished for their son's crimes. I'm just saying. No, I'm kidding.
No,
But
I
like
think
the
it's a good
Epstein
question.
thing, right? Here was the thing, right? All these people that worked with it. I said, if you worked with Epstein before you knew about him, like pleading guilty to child sex stuff in 2009, okay, whatever, right? You didn't know. Even if you heard rumors, whatever, he's at some golf club you're at, he's at some Hollywood party. But after that, like the only people I forgive still like socializing with them are his family. Because no matter what sort of monster he is, I'm sorry if it's your brother or if it's your son or if it's your father, that I forgive that. I understand the importance of standing behind your family.
People
right?
are not
And-
one-dimensional cartoons to you, Rob, you're saying.
right. And the other thing you have to understand is all of us have a blind spot. It's not just, well, I'm being a good person. You also have a blind spot, and you're willing to sort of convince yourself of the best in people, right? So, like, unless not everyone's like this, but for me, I could look at people that I really like and I see a mistake they make, and in my head, I'm like, well, I'll rationalize it the best way. Now, there's clearly a point where it goes beyond rationalization, but that's basically what I'm saying. What I couldn't forgive with Epstein was when you saw people like, who was it, like Katie Kerr and stuff, that went to like his birthday party immediately following him pleading guilty to like child sex stuff. Like, what's that excuse? You're not his sister. You weren't like in his wedding. It's not, you're not an in-law. So explain to me, like, that to me is different. That's like, okay, you don't have the excuse of, well, you always have to have your family's back. So, and then just real quick to answer, like, whether or not I'm reserving myself. Yeah, there's different levels of it. Like, for example, there's terms of service. Like, I'm on YouTube. So there are certain things that I may be more likely to say if I was talking to you in person that I can't say here.
Yeah.
Because whether I like it or not, I understand that the hammer will be brought down on me. So I can't say it. And then there's other things like, do you always tell the truth in real life? If if your girlfriend comes up and says, does this dress make me look fat? You're like, yeah, unfortunately it does. Probably not. There are times where you see a utility in not saying everything that's a stream of conscious across your mind.
Right.
So for example, I think it's different for each person though. So like Kamala Harris, she slept her way into politics. It's not really an attack I'm going to make that much because I think I have a litany of great attacks that I could make on her. And it doesn't really help my overarching message to make those attacks about her sexual dalliances. But I don't mind people that do. And it's the same the other way. People that want to talk about Trump's sex life and stuff.
I feel the
think
same way
it's
about
stupid,
Destiny's sex life. Like people try to put that on him.
but That's right.
You mean
There's so many other things to make fun of him for. Let people find that on their own.
Yeah.
I've probably debated him for hours upon hours. No one will ever find me once talking about his marriage.
I don't know. I
Because-
think he deserves to be bullied for letting another man peg his wife.
Ooh.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine for people to believe that. I have no problem.
But Rob, you're saying
Everyone has-
if the subject at hand is not related to that, then there's nothing to bring up about it because it's
for me,
yeah.
Which is 100%
but it's
valid.
different for every person. Like, so you have to think. Like, I ran for Congress in District 12 here. So I grew up in what was they may have changed the districts now. I forget. I was District 15. It used to be District 5, then it became 15. And you might know this, Daniel. Like they kind of shifted it. So
Yeah,
we
it's
still
back
had-
to 15, I think. 12 no
Yes.
longer exists where it used to exist.
Correct. So I was going to run against our rep, Glenn Thompson, at some point, and they weren't happy. Like the Clarion County Republican people weren't happy.
Bro, do I have a story for you off the air, man?
I would love it. So then they told me basically wait your turn. So then this special election came up. Tom Marino was elected in District 12 and got a cancer diagnosis. So he wins in 2018, then he withdraws. And so now there's a special election. Now the way a special election occurs is there's not a primary. Instead, they had, what do they call it? I'm trying to, blank here now, but they had conferees, they were called. So each county, based on the percentage of vote that Tom Marino had going into that election, got that many conferees. I think there ended up being 212 conferees. They got to pick. Because this was open, there wasn't an incumbent. I said, great, now's my chance to run. And I used to be in this district until they redistricted it. So I figured I would run. One of the things, I got to speak at the convention. I was in the top 10 out of 24 people. Was the only person who got a standing ovation at the convention. Basically, my speech, I got 2 minutes, and I basically told them a story about how I'm the shittiest redneck you'd ever meet. I'm the worst hunter. I can't change a tire to save my life. I'm just a piece of shit when it comes to that stuff. But those are the people I love most in life. And I'm a talker, and I'm a debater, and I'm a bullshitter. And I realized that I could talk and articulate what these people think and how our lives are. Even though I suck at what they do, those are the people I respect most in life. And I said, I just want to tell all of you here, and Mike, Glenn Thompson was there, and I think Mike Kelly was there, and some other representatives. I said, I just want to let you know that you claim to represent us, and we're not dumb rednecks. And if you don't start actually representing us, then people like me are going to come take your job. And I got this standing ovation, and everyone's like, yeah. Then, of course, nothing happened with it. I didn't win, nonetheless. But there was this guy that came up to me that took like 5th or 6th place afterwards, and he was a pediatrician, older guy. Really wide, like he got this like Gandalf feel from him, like this wise guy. And he said, "Can you teach me to speak like you?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, why not?" And I was like, "Because you're not me.
Yeah.
You can't be up here telling dick jokes as a 73-year-old pediatrician. It's not going to work. You're an older, wiser dude. You should talk like an older. You have to be authentic." And so for me, what I say is, there are different ways to argue. There are different ways to make points. There's different ways to communicate entirely. And I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong way, but you have to be authentic. And so if you want to make jokes about someone's sex life, power to you. I don't care. Yeah. As long as you're not calling for their violence, I say, I tip my cap, you do. Same with me. If people want to make, now I think my family's off limits, but other than that, anything you want to say, go for it, right? But it doesn't work for everyone. And if I'm trying to be a person that's like, I think I could destroy you on the facts, if I start ranting and raving about Destiny's sex life, what does that do? Well, that's where the focus becomes then. And instead of me pointing out how he's wrong on the facts 15 times, people are like, yeah, but he had to resort to talking about his sex life. And so for me, I don't do it. However, I don't morally judge people that do. Destiny brought up his sex life on stream. He brought up his relationship on stream. Makes it fair game. Once that you're making that as an argument that you're saying this is the way, if he hadn't brought that up on stream and it was just a personal matter, then maybe it's over the line. But I don't get what I'm trying to say is I don't give a shit. All four of you could make fun of any of them for any reason. I don't give a shit. I don't think you're bad people. It's just not what I do.
Yeah, I hate to jump in here. Oh, good timing on the comment too. We had a little hiccup in packet loss there, so it might have gone dead for everybody. It should be back now. But refresh your stream if all you're doing is hearing the audio. From Pepe Payne, example of conditioning. China's economy is shit according to who? They also said China wasn't accurate with their COVID numbers. Hold on. Pull that back up. Accurate with their COVID numbers. So why do we believe one set of statistics versus another from the same source? Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't.
Point.
There's Scott. I forget the name of this. Someone told me the actual name of this, but Scott Adams, who I like listening to. He thinks differently, so I like listening to him.
For sure.
He talks about this a lot. There's this phenomenon. There's a name for this, but let's say you're an engineer and you pick up the New York Times and you read 10 stories, and the first 9 you're like, good story, good story, good story, good story.
This is Michael Crichton, Rob. Michael Crichton figured this out, not Scott Adams.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. The 10th story's about
Keep talking.
And you're like, well, this story's shit. I know I'm an engineer. I know this story's shit. And yet you still believe those other 9 stories. It's a brilliant question. Let's make the Super Chatters question even more obvious. Why would I ever believe anyone who lied to me about Biden's obvious cognitive decline for 4 years, about anything they say about anything ever again? Yeah. That's it, the Gelman. Yep.
Gelman amnesia.
Yep.
Yeah.
Michael Crichton was talking to Murray Gelman, who is super smart. And anyway, yes, as Rob just said, everybody's an expert in a certain subject. Let's say mine is basketball, and I read the New York Times, and the front page is the NBA championship, and they're talking about it. I said, man, half the shit in this article is bullshit because I know basketball. I turn the page, it's about economics. I suddenly believe everything I'm reading, even though I just read. Right.
It's like Jim Cramer. You ever watch the videos of
Yeah.
people
He's
analyzing
always
what
wrong.
Jim Cramer's predictions are, and it's actually the exact opposite always turns out. Yeah.
So that is that originated from a conversation between Michael Crichton and Murray Gell-Mann. If anybody
Inspired him to write Jurassic Park.
Yes,
That was
it-
the moment, right
it sure
there.
did.
You know?
Rob, do you know the term mo-juiced?
No.
Oh, you're gonna love it. Hold on. We're big believers in mo-juiced on this show.
It already sounds good.
And so is Ernest Hemingway. It's 2 words, French. M-O-T, like bon mot, good one.
Mon juice.
Yep, mot juste. The exactly right word. When you say something perfectly, you have achieved mot juste. And so we believe in mot juste on this show. So
Yeah,
I have a feeling
absolutely.
you're going to remember that one.
Yeah, but
I will remember that.
Yeah, but Rob, just to bring this conversation back to Destiny and just and unjust punishments, we saw a lot of internal infighting on our sphere on the right between, particularly from classical liberals, saying that we shouldn't be, that we're acting a bit hypocritical in celebrating Elon Musk taking away his ad revenue on Twitter and briefly kicking him off. Kicking him off. They've since brought him back on, but that still doesn't change that there was a discussion being had on whether or not we were being generally hypocritical when it comes to cancel culture. And I think this is a good segue into the Piers Morgan interview because a lot of people, and this is the primary debate, is whether or not Destiny was joking with his comments or not regarding the shooting.
All right, hold on 1 second, check.
Yeah, and it's not the whole debate. It's just like a brief segment of it.
Do you know what? This is 5 minutes.
But
so
you
do you know what part? Just the beginning?
I think it's. Can we like play?
You are, when you are Destiny,
in
let me
a
explain
world
to you.
where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a
They can
conservative.
have any conspiracy
I'm
theory.
not a conservative.
They can have any plot. They can do anything, and then liberals are
All right,
supposed to sit here and be like, "Oh my
no.
God, it's so tragic."
No, Destiny.
Absolutely not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position because I'm not a conservative. I'm not on either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family,
if you guys have
with a
anything to
wife
say,
and
you can
children.
pause it.
Well, I mean,
Who he was
I get where we're
protecting.
going here. He's
Yeah,
being exactly, the
Yeah, but
person.
at some point in this debate, he justifies his comments by saying, "Yes, but Trump is an insurrectionist, and therefore that has to be kept in mind." And other than that, it's Pierce calling him out on his hypocrisy on why should anyone take him seriously if he's not holding himself to the very standards he's putting out. And I think this is just very dangerous precedent Destiny is setting, particularly because I don't think his personal definition of what an insurrection is based on reality in reality at all. Because a lot of the time with the left, when they talk about insurrection, they're citing Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, but they constantly forget that this was written during the time frame of the Civil War, and they're specifically referring to the Confederacy taking up arms, and this is a group of people of around 1 million people wanting to overthrow the government, and that does not really that's not similar at all to the January 6th crowd that he claims are just like them.
So this is what the debate Andrew Wilson's debating Destiny on tonight.
Okay.
Andrew will debate differently than me, but when I've debated Destiny and sort of his orbiters on this before, the problem they have is they will cite definitions of the term insurrection that are so broad that basically we have about 90 insurrections a year in this country, and 89 of them are left-wing.
Yeah, I believe.
So, for example, every Black Lives Matter rally would have met the definition of what they... So
Exactly.
If you go to the Colorado court that tried to keep Trump off the ballot, this is hilarious. I don't know if you knew this, but that court that said that we have to keep Trump off the ballot because he engaged in an insurrection, do you know that they never defined the term insurrection? I'm
No.
not making that up.
No.
They cited 2 definitions and
That's
said, well, we're
wild.
not going to use either of those, but these are possible definitions. We just think that literally any definition of the word insurrection would include what happened on January 6th.
Well,
And if
was
you
there
look at
not
the first...
something to the point of insurrection being the exact wordage needed to prevent someone from trying to run for president if they were...
Well,
Hey, don't let me. I got it. Let me jump in really quick here. We're about at the 1 hour break. Remember that question you just asked Mihaly, but I'm going to throw something out here that's a little new. I'm the only smoker here, I think. Really, the reason, Rob, we take a break is for me to take another 10 minutes off my life because I'm just tired of dealing with it. Jack is in training to take this Cider House show over, and none of you guys smoke. If you guys want, I'll just let you take my seat, Jack. You guys keep talking, and I'll be back in like 5 minutes. But you want to go for it?
Sure. Just show me the button where it's just
Keep
like the 2
rolling.
of us talking. Like,
Or do you-
I still
Rob-
have to memorize all the buttons.
Rob,
That's
do
just
you
what I
want
have to
10
do.
minutes?
No, I don't need 10 minutes.
Yeah, you seem like you could go for fucking ever, man. I mean that in the best way possible.
Thank you. Yeah.
All
it's
right,
true.
so I'm going to just leave it live. Jack, you come over here.
Okay.
Danny and I think
He doesn't
Mihaly.
need to touch any buttons.
Yeah,
It
can I
is
just leave it as
perfectly
is? Can I just
fine
leave it
right
as
now.
is?
Yeah, if you'll just leave it alone, then all you need to do
That's
is
fine
sit
by
here.
me.
We have to wait till he's in the seat, though.
Yeah, I know. All right. I'm going to go press fast forward on my life for 5 minutes. Best part of a cigarette? No, I know. I'm a doomer. Sorry. And here you go, Jack. Oh.
So we've... Well, I'll wait until Jack gets his headset on.
Danny, do you want to stay too?
Yeah.
So, Jack,
I'm not an addict, okay?
We're in agreement. We're all just going to talk shit and
Okay.
John for 5 minutes while he's gone. All right, like...
Can be a
That'll just
little
be the show.
informal, you know? It's part of the magic of it all.
Yeah. Well,
I've been wanting to get this point in a little bit. Well, they're all gone, so I'll get it in now before Mihaly starts asking more questions. Is there to be had a debate over whether or not, like, this can go into the lawfare and the cancel culture of what we're currently experiencing? I almost think it's justified to essentially boycott these people like Destiny from our side. But I also understand the argument that canceling them is the pot calling the kettle black. But is there a line to be drawn where it's like, well, what you said is so disgusting and not on the same level of you canceling me because I might have said the F slur in middle school?
Yeah, there's certainly a line. Like, let's draw the line as easily as possible. Anyone that's not a subhuman piece of garbage would say child sexploitation would be a line that we would all say. You know, when people call themselves free speech absolutists, there are things baked into the cake that we understand aren't true. Like, you can't break the law. Like, you can't come on here and say, I'm going to outline my plan exactly to cause physical harm to this. And you can't do stuff like that. And so once you say that clearly there is a line, there are some things that we should all say, nope, we don't engage with that. Then, yeah, we just have to discuss where should the line be, and people's mileage may vary. There's certainly an argument to be had there, right? Should we boycott them? Well, I think it's an individual thing. For me, I say no. I think that not only should they not have taken down Destiny's tweets or anything like that, they should have pinned him to his profile and put him on the front page for everyone to see that's going to vote. That's what I want. I want people to hear him. I hope he does Piers Morgan's show 50 more times. I hope that Trump's team cuts a campaign rally and says, here's who the left are. Here's who they are. They think you all deserve to be shot. That's great. Go ahead and say it. But I understand people that say, I don't want to engage with it. But here's something. Like, I personally don't think that his channel should be removed. Demonetization, that's a different level of cancel culture. I'm not cheering for him to be demonetized, but I'm also not dumb. Like, when you have a product that you're selling advertisers on, they don't want their advertisement next to a guy saying, hey, that guy that just got shot at a Trump rally, I'm happy about that. If you're selling sports drinks or something, you don't want to be associated with that. So you're going to tell whoever owns the company, I'm not going to put ads on here anymore as long as that guy's on there. And you could like it or hate it or whatever, but it makes sense. And I've tried to argue with people this. There was a debate show. It used to be called Politically Provoked. And they were kind of like modern day debates, except trashier, I guess.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
they were big on, like, we're just going to bring people on to throw around the N-word. And then their channel got canceled, and they were like, what the hell? And I was like, you could morally disagree with the fact you were canceled, but practically you couldn't see the writing on the wall. Like, you didn't know that YouTube was going to be like I'm getting community strikes for, COVID misinformation or denying the election results or whatever. You thought you were just going to come on and yell the N-word for 50 minutes and then be like, "Wow, I'm shocked that I got canceled." So, I mean, there's ways to look at it. For me, my line is, if you're calling for violence, then F you. I'm going to boycott you. I'm not going to call Twitter or X or YouTube and say, cancel this guy. I'm not going to report their videos. I'm just going to say, I'm not dealing with you anymore. I don't know that Destiny's crossed that threshold, but I'm predisposed to not wanting to think that.
But you
I like debating.
You highlighted something a little bit ago about we get canceled for talking about COVID. We get canceled for having an opinion that isn't inherently harmful. In fact, it's probably the better opinion to hold to help this country out. Yep. But fundamentally, they cancel us for this petty stuff. I honestly think the narrative also needs to, the conversation ought to be had that we aren't canceling people like you for petty bullshit. We're canceling people like you for, I wouldn't even say canceling.
The shooter to have better aim.
But freedom of speech is freedom of speech. We can't be spending our entire lifetimes arguing for freedom of speech, and then when the time actually comes for freedom of speech, then to be.
I mean, he had the freedom to say it. We just then deprive him of.
You can choose. Any individual can choose not to agree with anything says, but any other individual should be able to say anything they want.
Yeah. So you're saying that accountability is a totally different thing, right?
Yeah, I think accountability is something that has to be considered.
A lot of people, including self-proclaimed classical liberals, like to say that it is in fact freedom of speech to be free of the accountability. And I think that's where we see a disconnect on the entire defining of cancel culture, because I think just like how the left will sometimes shift definitions so that it works in their favor, like you see this all the time with racism. To them, racism is power plus prejudice. So therefore, if you're black, you can't be racist against any other groups. That's obviously a BS definition, and classical liberals and conservatives alike can identify that. However, it's sort of harder when it comes to cancel culture for some reason, because with the popular cases like Kyle Rittenhouse, Nick Sandmann, Hugh Mungus, etc., those are all people who didn't do anything wrong in the first place. They were just victims of mindless mobs coming after them. However, that's not necessarily the case with Destiny here, who is doing something wrong, who is calling for violence, or allegedly calling for violence, because that's the debate being had here.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to, I see both sides of the argument. I did a video last week where I explained this. The truth is, I'm weak. That's the truth. The truth is, I talk to a lot of people that are Christian nationalists. I'm more libertarian. Right. So I don't want Christian nationalism. I happen to be a Christian. Mm-hmm. Under a Christian nationalist society, things would probably be better for me and my family than they are now. Like, I could send my kid to school and they're not going to be indoctrinated with all this LGBT shit and stuff like that. But I still, based on my principles, say, no, I don't want an authoritarian government. To an extent, they're advocating for some authoritarianism, just because it's people that agree with me. I still say no. I still advocate for, sort of the principles of freedom that I've always advocated for. But will I win? Will my side win? No, we're not going to win. The truth is that as the excesses of the institutions that really control things, and as they keep giving at least lip service to the causes of the radical left and embracing that culture, that the only chance there is of that being stymied is for people to use the same tactics on the right. And so cancel culture, for example, I was wrong. For years and years and years, I said, cooler heads will prevail. If we just use logic and intuition, we'll be able to convince people, no, it's really a dumb society to go back and try to cancel people for stuff they said when they were in high school, or for edgy jokes they made at the bar, or whatever. That's a stupid society. Eventually, cooler heads will prevail.
I would argue, Rob, that the reason things did not prevail, though, is because we did not have true freedom of speech. If you go back 5 years ago and you look at Twitter's misgendering policy before Musk bought it, it's anyone that uses the name that's not preferred pronouns. Well, that's the complete opposite of what misgendering definition is to someone that's on the right.
Yeah, and then
so you're only given one.
Jack, you got to jump in and read that super chat.
All right. I prefer dangerous stream to safe slavery. Destiny may be a little.
I knew it.
For itself and people who don't want to associate with
I saw it when it came up.
Complicated.
He had to stumble through it there.
Yeah.
Faggot, Jack, is the word that you skipped over.
I agree with the super
A
chat.
bundle of
I mean,
sticks.
It's really difficult. Like I sort of disagree though with the idea that we didn't have free speech. Right, that is true. We didn't have free speech. We never have. The left's always been doing it, but we didn't start to see the pendulum swing back the other way until people said, "Okay, we'll do the same thing to them that they're doing to us." And that's just true. For example, let's say you're a corporate America.
Was that though, or was it just Musk buying Twitter forces everyone else to then open up more because they have to compete in the marketplace?
But would Musk have brought Twitter if that sort of fight wasn't going that strongly on the other side?
Point.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, think about it this way. Robbie Starbuck, who I like, I've had on my show, good guy, right?
Yeah.
He's leading this battle against DEI and all these like conservative companies with conservative consumers, like John Deere or Tractor Supply.
Isn't he also a proponent of school choice? Or is that someone else?
Rob,
let me just jump in here and totally change the subject because I can.
You're not in the director's chair.
Speaking of faggots,
Jack.
I'm gonna be one. Oh shit! Hold on, Pepe Paint. Jack, read it.
All right. At what point is physically warranted?
Into your microphone if you can.
Only when the Gulag guards come to get you, or sometime before. Also, what makes that call? Bundy Ranch, as example. War vet and anti-war.
Bundy Ranch. ...
So
all right.
Difficult. This is one of the things where it's very difficult to talk about because certainly it is true that there have been times in history when political violence is justified. But every one time that it was, there's 1,000 times that people claimed it was justified and it wasn't. So if we have this conversation and we say, isn't there clearly a point where at some point physical violence is justified? And let's say that you get me to be like, I guess. You know what the very next thing 99% of people say is? Yes, and this right now is the time. My issue right now this is the time. Systemic racism. Yep, you said it. You said sometimes political violence is justified.
It's really smart,
and what's more, or how about this? Yep, you're right, Rob. And stealing the election. They stole the election in 2020. Yep, that's enough. Violence is justified.
That's actually really smart. I want to ask you. I want to ask you this though, slightly changing tack. How do you see this whole, in terms of the factions involved that are vying for power? And Elon Musk buying Twitter, you were saying, is what made me think of this. So J.D. Vance becoming Trump's VP, he's a protege of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel and Musk are connected. What do you see happening in the big picture? Who are the factions? Who was in charge of those factions, if you're able to discern such a thing? And maybe even if you could go so far as to say, is what do those factions want?
So for me,
how do you see it?
So for me, it is not right versus left, although I say that because it is true that the left is now the voice of the establishment, right? Like the left is lock stock, right? Any dissent you find is from the right or from centrists.
Yeah.
I do. That's definitely true, right? So it's more about the establishment and all of these people that really run the world. And by that, I'll try to be as specific as possible. There are institutions of powerful people that really make all of our cultural and political decisions.
Do you think those people care about left and right?
No, they don't care at all. They only care about maintaining their own power. Just think about how it would have been. So just take one small group of it, like our political class during the Vietnam War. And you had all of this like cultural push behind the Vietnam War. So you had people that were like considered more conservative Americans, maybe churches and political class that were like, yeah, Vietnam. Then you had academia and cultural icons like entertainers and like the people at Woodstock and all that were against it. What would happen if you were the people that wanted to go to that war and you were like, what if we could get all sides on our side? What if we could make our enemy this little minute fraction of people? And that's just people that are like waking up like, wait, what's going on? We're getting screwed over. But then the same military industrial complex that's pushing the war is now on the side of the hippies at Woodstock. It's now on the side of the musicians. It's on the side of the young people and the academics. That's what happened over 8 years in this country. We went from me marching. I was a Ron Paul, like libertarian guy. All my friends were left wingers. I was marching against the Iraq war with all these lefties. They thought I was quirky. We disagree with your economy stuff, but hey, at least you're right about being against the Iraq war. Great. Somehow they went from the most distrusting of our military industrial complex to their biggest supporters in 8 years. And all it took was Obama because he was hip and cool and black. So that was cool. So it must be good if he's supporting it. And then Trump, who they hate, coming out and saying like, I'm not so sure I agree with the FBI. That's all it took. Remember Chuck Schumer went on national television and said, they'll find 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at him for criticizing him. Mm-hmm. Now, everyone in this country, regardless if you like Trump or hate him, should say, wait, excuse me? The elected president, who's the head of the executive, has to be afraid to criticize people underneath him because they'll get back at him? That's insane. But no, the left cheered it on, and they've been cheering it on the whole time. So when I say right and left, make no mistake, there are dissident left-wing people like Jimmy Dore, Glenn Greenwald, or Aaron Mattei. I don't agree with a lot of their politics, but they get targeted as well as people that are outside the sort of Overton window of acceptable establishment beliefs. And so to talk about Peter Thiel and them, I think what's going on is there are people that are sort of in these institutions that have been entrenched power for 50 years. And now there are people that have garnered wealth or have talent in some area that don't like those people. And they're fighting with those people. And some of them for the right reasons and some of them for not the right reasons. And they see that by attaching themselves to a movement that is sort of calling out the corruption of the institutions, that they're able to somehow benefit themselves and their cause. Now, again, so is Elon Musk someone who's really just a great dude that's like, hey, I just really want free speech and I really want people to have political disagreements and I just think the left's, the establishment's gone too far? Maybe he sees a way to make money. I don't really know. I know.
And to put you on the spot, and I know you don't know, what's your read though? What do you think? What's your take?
I think it's a combination of both. I think ultimately Elon's a pretty good guy who's not a free speech absolutist. I think that what he means when he says that is he wants Republicans and Democrats to be able to argue mainstream Republican and Democrat points without being kicked off or the government interfering. But there's going to be things that are beyond the pale for him. I think that if I had to guess, I don't know if you saw his interview with Jordan Peterson. I think probably his son transitioning probably is his genesis. Yeah. It probably was. This is when shit went too far, and now it's his. They just made the richest man in the world personally pissed off at them. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happened. It's the same thing I think about Trump. I don't think Trump's this ideologue that's like, oh, he's a constitutionalist. That's why he's fighting this fight. I think Trump is someone who saw how corrupt the system was because he was kind of on the outside of it, but he was greasing palms. He knew what was up. And he's like, yeah, I like the American people. I think I could do some good. But ultimately, I think what Trump's driven by is sort of his own ego and revenge. And
Obama telling him he'd never be president.
Yeah. I think that shit, the people joke about that. I think that seriously was.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, I'll show you. I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But it takes some of that in the psyche of a person that would be able to win president.
You need that.
Mm-hmm.
But now, would I prefer Ron Paul? Someone who I think, not because of emotions, but because of logic, has came to the conclusion that like these institutions are corrupt and we need a small. Of course, I would prefer the person that I think's ideologically making the correct decisions. But I'll take the revenge-based people. Yeah. I mean, at this point, we're fighting such an uphill battle against how corrupt and how strong these institutions are. Mm-hmm. It's going to take people that aren't the best people. And this is true of any war, right? And again, don't get it conflated. I'm not suggesting physical violence, but oftentimes the people that are the best fighters or the best leaders aren't necessarily the person that you would necessarily be neighbors with.
Yeah.
That you'd want babysitting your kids.
Dirty people are good at dirty jobs, That's
right.
And in a war, there's dirty jobs.
Right. And if I'm able to give my 2 cents, I think this goes along with.
Yeah.
True.
No, Jack.
I think this goes along well with the debate over populism. Because there's this YouTuber by the name of Academic Agent. He wrote a book called The Populist Delusion. And in it, he makes the argument that a lot of groups or political groups that tend to form that are successful tend to have an elite in some form or another leading the revolution.
I mean,
it's because,
like the class
for instance, yes, he makes a case for a disaffected elite leading, like always changing the course of history in some form or another. Like popular examples he lists are Vladimir Lenin, who did come from an elite background.
Augustus.
A lot of people did not know that. Yes, Augustus. And also MLK. A lot of people don't acknowledge how much elite backing MLK had. Like a lot of the buses,
or how bad of a person he actually was.
True. But a lot of the bus companies did not like those segregation laws, so they actually sided with him. But I think that's, like, Rob, you have a point. Like, our way out is not going to be this idea of a Rocky Balboa type figure who comes from working class background and gradually rises his way up. It's going to be a disaffected elite who was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, who was kind of groomed in a way to run these institutions that we're talking about that have been compromised, and they determine for themselves. They see for themselves like how corrupt it is, and they they lead the charge. In
I would
changing
almost
for
go as
themselves.
far as making the argument that there's something more honorable in someone that had the life given to them and stepped away from it to fight for people that weren't given that.
I don't know. There
I
there
think
is a
Jack
myth.
just advocated for like transitioning the republic to an empire, though.
There's a myth about that kind of person,
Yeah. Well, that's
and it doesn't have the ending you might expect.
Yeah, well-
The myth is called Prometheus.
Yeah, well, what I'm advocating for is pretty in line with traditional conservative thought. Like it's always like we believe in hierarchies, right? Like we believe if we live in a free society, then obviously that means some people are going to do better than the others.
Yeah, there's inherently inequality in a hierarchical society.
Exactly.
There is-
exactly.
Let's go down this road, and I'll let Rob start first. 'Cause yes, but yeah, are all men created equal?
No, clearly not.
Yeah, I mean-
I try to live by the motto that no one's better than me and I'm not better than anyone. But that's not true.
Yeah.
Like clearly there are people that you're better at, like child predator, for example. We're all better than them. But the theory is you should always be humble but always be proud. Never go into a crowd. I'll spend one night in New Bethlehem. Daniel, you probably know New Bethlehem, right? I'll be in New Bethlehem. I used to bartend there with the biggest drunken, toothless rednecks you ever meet. Just crude. My people, though, I love them, right? And then the next day, I'm out in Williamsport at a Republican convention, sitting there with like 3 representatives and a bunch of millionaires. And in my head, I'm like, none of these people here are better than me. And then when I go back to the bar in New Bethlehem, I'm like, I'm not better than any of these people. But the truth is, we're not all created equal. I mean, there are hierarchies of different ways. I think you're ultimately right. I think that because of the strength of what we're facing with this corruption, that it will take people sort of from that society to sort of help lead us out of that. But even if you don't take that hierarchy, let's say it's me. Let's say that all of a sudden I become this powerful speaker, and isn't that a hierarchy as well? Couldn't you say, well, Rob's not really a normal person because he had all these connections that he met. And he was a debater in college, so he had advantages that sort of the normal farmer guy would. Yeah, you could say that all of us are high up on some hierarchy and low on others. So there is this sort of mistake that populism just means that, everyone's on equal footing and we all have equal voice and it's like this pure democracy. For me, I use the term, I don't care. People can argue semantics. When I debated Richard Spencer, he said I used this word incorrectly. When I use populism, I just mean this: a government that at least gives a shit about the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty much my interpretation too. Like American or conservative populism is pretty much asking the government to properly represent them in office. That's it.
Well, it's the Constitution of the people, by the people, and most importantly for the people.
Yeah.
But we forget the last part.
I said this on Tim Pool's show, right? Like, why is Trump? So you might say then, okay, so Trump's this billionaire Manhattanite. Why are people in Jefferson County and Clarion County, why are they crawling over broken glass to vote for Trump? And the reason is because people in these areas, their life's not so good on average anymore. And They've seen their economy.
I was going to say, JD encompasses this very well. I mean, and that's why I don't mean to change the topic, but I just think he is fundamentally a good representation of where you and I come from, Rob. Yep. Because we grew up in those Appalachia towns that are littered across the sides of these rolling mountains that aren't like they're.
You have a groundhog.
Yeah.
Like
you have a meth trailer park in one part of town, and then you have the persnickety uppities on Main Street. But fundamentally, we're all coming from a community with an identity crisis, with inherent struggles that it's just
we're the enemy. Right, that's the irony. Like I was talking about sort of the idea of how the left is now lockstep with the institutions, right? Like, who's the enemy then? Because you have to have another. Well, it's us. It's the 10-tooth rubes, the MAGA people, the people in flyover country. They're all racist. They're afraid. Rick Wilson said all this once. We're afraid of the brown horde coming through the border. And that's how we're treated. Like, these people have almost no cultural or institutional power whatsoever. Yeah. None. And by the way, they're still really happy people in general. Even those that aren't ravaged by drugs or addiction or something like that. I know people around here that barely make ends meet that the biggest smile you've ever seen on their face every day. Like, there's salt of the earth type people.
Yeah, the people that if your car breaks down, they're going to stop and they're going to help you out. Mm-hmm. If you're bleeding, they're going to...
The bar for them for a politician was someone who doesn't hate me. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's how low the damn bar became. And here came Trump. And you can say what you will about Trump. There's a lot to criticize. But the moments about Trump that stick with me the most are the shit you can't fake. Like he gets out of Air Force One and the Marine's hat blows off, and he instantaneously goes over and puts it on. You can't fake that shit, right? Or when he's walking out and they tell him Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and you could tell he's honestly like, wow, it's terrible.
I'm just
like,
hearing this
even
the
though
first
politically,
time. Wow.
Yeah, you're right. And he has the fight when he gets shot and he stands up and he says
that's
fight.
a good recent
That's
example.
organic shit you can't plan for. And those sort of moments, I believe that he's either the best actor in the world, or he believes when he sees the construction worker or something, he's like, hey man, you're cool as shit. We should go golfing sometime. And that to people in my neck of the woods is like, finally, someone who doesn't hate me. Now, you might say, I know the people that hate Trump will say, but what did his policies do for those people? Blah, blah, blah. That's a different argument. What I'm saying is, Trump's just a man. He's just a person. He was from that elite class. He had money to not be bought and paid for and could be outside of it, which gave him a chance, unlike the rest of us. Like, we could put on the best show in the world tonight, which we already are, but we don't have the reach that someone like Donald Trump, who's never done a podcast, could sit down and do one. He's going to have 5 million people watch him. So we're fighting this uphill battle. So it takes someone like that to break through. And the point is, though, that what he is just a representation of a system that is so broken that a guy who is basically this brash billionaire game show host gets to a hero status of so many people because it's like, wow, he doesn't hate me. Yeah. And I don't think people understand, if you're not from this area, what that means to be that depressed as an entire area, entire towns. That's like, Clarion, where I'm from. Well, I'm from New Bethlehem area, but Clarion, they had, what was the big job here? Well, there's the university, and then there was the glass plant. Glass plant closed down like 15 years ago. That's it, man. There's people, they don't know what to do. And then there's not many people living in town, so the restaurants start closing down.
I mean,
then the
it
bars
creates a
start
fundamental identity crisis for our hometowns because, I mean, you would know Punxsutawney is just 45 minutes away from where you grew up. Well, I mean, New Bethlehem even closer than that. But we went from 20,000 people in 1950 to now the entire zip code, which encompasses not only the borough but the surrounding townships as well, is 4,500 people. And this is because of the fundamental just lack of interest from it's not even, I would say, hate, just total ignorance towards our communities that our elected officials have shown. Like, what have they done to bolster the economy of small towns? I mean, Punxsutawney produced all the coke that went to the steel mills in Pittsburgh way back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s. But then once we started getting to and granted, conservatives champion Ronald Reagan's policies fundamentally destroyed towns like mine.
Yep. Well, look at farms. You drive through any of these counties where we're at here, Clarion, Jefferson County, you see all these farms. Used to be all owned by a family. Now that you can count the number of families on your hand that own farms, it's like 3 or 4 for all of them. They've either bought each other out or international conglomerates have come in and bought them out. And it's really sad. There's no one that was, and look, I understand there's an argument to be had. Hey, economies move on, things happen. Why should we care about, keeping your community at the harm of the greater country? I get all those arguments, but what I'm saying is, when you look at, like, for example, inner cities that have so many problems, at least there are people that pay lip service to those problems. Culturally, we're like, oh, that's terrible. Harlem, inner city Detroit, that's terrible, right? At least we pay lip service. Not to where we're from. To where we're from, we're the problem. That's the way they look at it. Oh, they're racist. They're backwards people. They're the problem. You can even see this, like, when they talk about climate change. They're like, it's all these older people. It's people in communities like that. They're screwing it over for the younger generation. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, Trump provided some amount of hope to those people. And again, it's not that Trump, it's not that it's like, oh, he's the smartest dude that ever lived, or he's the best speaker. He's good at a lot of shit. I'm not going to downplay him. But more than any of that, it was like, here's a guy saying F you to the establishment, and I like these people over here. And that's it. That's all it was. He could have issued policies that were like, by the way, screw Punksy. And Punksy's still going to be like, he's still a good guy. Like, because the other guys are literally like, we hate you. We can't stand you. And it matriculates through all parts of our society, not just politics. It's why when your kids go to school, they tell them because of their skin color or their gender that they're evil. I'll tell you right now, I went to a high school called Red Bank High School. That's where I went to school.
Red Bank Valley.
Red Bank Valley, yeah, okay. My bad. The Bulldogs, baby. 2002, I graduated. Red Bank Valley. I would guess, I think I graduated 72 people. I would guess that no one was really interested in politics. If you had to ask them, we were all hunters, four-wheeler riders, driving around in pickups. That's what everybody's super, like, redneck conservative, right? I have a sister that's 20 years younger. She went to that school. You know that huge portions of the school are now non-binary.
Yep. Even
KDKA,
Punk Seed
KDKA,
Dubois.
yep.
Well,
Brookville.
here in State College, at our local high school where I went in 2016, I was when I graduated or started, and I saw the start of it through my 4 years there, graduating 2019. Now I can't even comprehend the things they have going on. They have litter boxes in certain bathrooms for kids to identify as cats. That's where we've gotten since I left.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
my
I am not
God.
kidding.
It's insanity. That KDKA does this. KDKA, for those that don't know, is a news station out of Pittsburgh. They do this every 4 years. They took like 3 schools, and they do a mock election. And they started doing this, I think, in 2016. Red Bank Valley was one of the schools they chose. Trump wins in a landslide in 2016.
Yeah.
Biden won in 2020.
Yeah, he won at my school when we had that in Upper St. Clair High School.
This is something I find. This is a really funny little side story about mock elections. In 2008, I remember it was in kindergarten, and my parents told me right before I went into school, "You're gonna put John McCain's name in the box because we're not voting for Obama in this household." And my kindergarten brain couldn't wrap the concept around it that John McCain won the election at Mapleview Elementary School.
Yeah.
Why is Obama the president?
Recount
Similar
stupid
story.
electoral college,
Yeah.
anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
When I grew up going to Catholic school at a place called OOV, and I remember we would go to library every Tuesday. Our class would go to library, and the librarian would read us a book. And then one day she read us a book about John McCain. Nobody really said anything, but then we come back a week later, and she read us a book about Obama, and every kid started booing. I couldn't wrap my head around how did he win? We all hated him. What do you mean?
Yeah, but Rob, you're right on the money in regards to elites of this country, like constantly talking down to people they deem their lessers, and we see it right now with Kamala Harris's campaign. Like their entire strategy right now is just calling any critics of her racist, sexist, or any sort of ism or phobic, and I think this is the point where we like transition to some of the links we have on her, but there's a lot to talk about. Like earlier you mentioned how the left is now denying that she was ever the border czar. Like I remember Axios like recently said that like we're reporting on this, and it turns out that this not only did Axios also report on her as the border czar, but the same author did in fact, and it's just really ridiculous.
Did you see they retracted it now?
They
went back to their old article and removed the word border czar and
of course
put
they did.
That's Soviet Union stuff.
It
Just
is.
rewriting history right out of 1984.
Jack's talking about this sort of thing. The White House talking points have been deployed. The leftist media are labeling every critique of Kamala
And
Harris as racist
if you put on
and
the audio,
sexist.
you can just hear it all, like all of the same arguments.
I think I already know what I'm going to hear.
And xenophobic tenor. He is going to try to attack Senator Kamala Harris with both sexist and racist tropes.
Can't do it, Jack.
No,
I believe you, though.
We get the narrative.
Here, if you ever want to know how to deal with this, someone calls you racist or sexist, you ask yourself, am I racist or sexist? And if the answer is no, you just say, F you.
What if the answer is yes, Rob?
Well, do you have reasons for it? Then you're okay too. Right?
What if I don't?
Well, that's fine too. I mean, honestly, they've watered down these words so much. Who gives a shit anymore? I don't care.
You have an incredible understanding of the value of words and the battle going on over how they're defined and used. Yeah.
Right. But in addition to the border czar, just like revisionism, and Rob, I understand how you don't want to talk about like how Kamala got her positions, but I think on the point of like her race and sex being key, I think those are key components. But a quick super chat.
How can I be a racist if the border czar can't even decide what race she is or which race she's running in?
Yeah.
Great point.
If I love Jamaicans but hate black people, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah. But another
another
talking point you hear is that Republicans and conservatives or just general critics of hers are racist for calling her a DEI candidate. But if you look into the reasons as to why Biden picked her as his running mate, that's just literally true. Like there are Politico articles you can find saying that, like him promising that his running mate will be a woman. She will be black. So this is literally the case. She is a DEI candidate.
Here's how to make the argument. This is my recommendation on how to make the argument. Certainly she's a DEI hire in that she quite literally was picked for her skin color and gender. However, the reason that people are saying she's a DEI hire is because she's not qualified. So hypothetically, there is a black woman out there who would have been fantastic, who was smart, who would have been a good policy person, etc. But the problem with DEI, the big problem is that qualifications and competency don't matter. What matters is filling the quota. And so that's when people say DEI, that's what we're talking about. What has she done? Has she ever done well in an election? No. She didn't get any primary votes. She didn't do well when she was running for president, right? Did she have significant policy contributions during the Biden-Harris administration? No. Is she a great debater or speaker? No.
For the win, Nail, just a little tip for the stream. Thanks for having Rob on the show. It's been a good one. It has been a good one. Thank you for being with us, Rob.
Thanks for that, man.
But we're not done yet. We got another.
Yeah, no.
half
So,
an
I mean,
hour.
let me ask you guys, Jack and Rob, both of you, do we get a little bit down, caught in the weeds when we get, in my opinion, trapped into arguing about little minutia?
I mean, definitely. A lot of people. So something we have to keep in mind is that with voters, there is there are partisan issues, and then there are just general issues, and those typically align more with the more unattentive voter, more independent voter, like the swing voter. And with that type of voter, I think we need to prioritize just her overall history, just her her record. And a lot of people are on the fence with her, like even on the left, based on her prosecutorial past, based on how she seemingly locked people away for long periods of time for marijuana usage, just use them for for prison labor, etc. And Tulsi Gabbard nailed her on this back in the 2020 debates.
Yeah. But I think that for me, I like to make a clear case. I understand. I talk in two different ways. I talk in this very archaic, oh, do you guys know the inner details of the Burisma scandal? Oh, let me tell you about this guy Shokin that was a prosecutor. So my neighbor over here, right, like he just looks at me and I start rambling on this shit in the driveway. He's like, what? What are you talking about? But if I'm like, hey, man, remember when they locked your kid down from school? That he gets.
Mm-hmm.
There's no... So so you think about that and like how you're trying to advocate for a candidate, right? How am I going to argue against Kamala Harris? Yeah. I keep it real simple. I don't even bring up her prosecution. That might be red meat for people on the far left that might say, oh, I don't like her. Instead, you go the other way. You make this case. Kamala Harris is an incompetent authoritarian. She wants to take away your ability to eat meat. She wants to have a Green New Deal to take away your ability to use gas to drive a car. She wanted to give $20-something trillion of people during lockdowns, which would have made your groceries even more ridiculously expensive. And she supported the people that were burning this country down for months on end.
She even bailed them out. She even supported bailing them out. Yeah.
And so I think it's sort of muddying the waters if you say, she's super weak on crime. She supported all of these left-wing terrorists, but she's also really hard on crime. And she went after truancy and weed smoking. So I think what you do, you just make the case that she's weak on crime and then let the left make the argument. Yeah. Let them be like, well, as a prosecutor, she did this. Like, oh, when she targeted black people? That's what she did? Mm-hmm. That's what you mean?
And right? Over extended state prison sentences?
What do you think about this idea of them trying to prop her up as a champion of Gen Z? Obviously, we would disagree in this room, but we're kind of biased.
I mean, she called us stupid, 18 to 25-year-olds.
Yeah. It's the most astroturfed, it's the most astroturfed campaign I've ever seen. Like, immediately when Biden dropped out, they just changed all of the... selling points, like they're just saying that she's the best candidate ever.
So just because Lord of the Ree had actually a really good comment here. Weaponized autism, while powerful, is a double-edged sword. We can track down Shia LaBeouf's flag, but can't agree on what free speech is.
He will not divide us
because of all the nuance. But yeah,
Shia's based now, right? He's like some Christian dude.
Yeah. He's a born again Christian.
Lord, say it.
That flag really, that really set him in the right direction.
Capture the flag. That was incredible. Are we ourselves, Rob, lost a little bit in the weeds in, or maybe is something sort of fundamental or what's the word? Believing in Mojus. But before we get to any sort of debating, talking, is that we're not really speaking the same language, even with each other.
Oh, it's true. For example, let me ask you that we might all come. What do you think would be a better strategy to employ going into this election? Driving up enthusiasm in our own base or reaching moderates?
It's a question we struggle with ourselves, Rob. So why don't you tell us the answer?
Well, I don't know. That's what, to get to the point, though. Like, how can you? One thing that you have to give the devil its due with the Democrats is they are NPCs and in complete lockstep. There is no they'll have their superficial disagreements on Palestine versus Israel, and they're trying their damnedest to shut those people up. But other than that, that's how they could AstroTurf Kamala Harris day one.
Right.
And it's so funny, like to watch sort of the veil almost get lifted. So half the people I'm dealing with that are Democrats were furious at the suggestion that Joe Biden should drop out. They're riding with Biden, right? And so I'm watching these people and they're tweeting out. They're like, my God, the media aren't even being journalists. They're just all in on attacking Biden. That's terrible. The media shouldn't do this. They're driving the poll numbers. They're going to make him drop out. And it's not that he wants to. And I'm like, welcome to being a Trump supporter, baby. That's what it's like. It's not real journalism. Yeah. It's propaganda. And then I love these other people on the left that are like, well, how could people be upset? The media was just reporting the truth. Why would they do that if they're against Trump? Because they saw their chance to beat Trump slipping away because Biden's incompetent. They didn't report the truth all of a sudden because they suddenly became journalists. They reported the truth because it was convenient to them at the time to force Biden out. And then as soon as Biden was out, they'll pretend they didn't see the problem for 4 years, which they did. And then they'll say, by the way, Kamala Harris is the most capable, best person that's ever lived and would be the best president ever. Just like that. Within 2 hours. That's all. Well, Joe Biden's a hero for dropping out. Yay. It's all good now. And so
my favorite part was how they thanked him all for his public service over the past 50 years. We've been saying this guy hasn't had a real job his entire life.
He could have resigned at any time.
He could have resigned at any time. Your granddaughter. What a great guy. That veil got lifted. You saw them. They're like, oh my God, the media is not real media. They're propaganda. And we're back. Back to, oh no, they're real. And you just laugh. You laugh at these people. Yeah. How do you reach them? How do we, we're fighting a battle.
Well, so
let me just put it.
Yeah, I want to ask. Yeah, go ahead.
Is anything we say here going to beat ballot harvesting?
No, and so this is where like my political operative brain comes in. Whenever you guys were talking a little bit ago about do we go for the moderates or do we shift the actual beliefs and nuances of our party in a certain direction, this is where I say we do both. Okay, we win. Yeah. We win little victories in primaries in your 63rd district in New Bethlehem. We win primary victories in PA 15 at the congressional level and shift the Overton window of the party officials to the right. And then we mobilize post-primary and toss-up districts like Teresa's here in Center County.
But I would say we've been trying to do both for the past 8 years since 2016.
I don't think we have. I don't think party leadership that's been in place until this year when Laura Trump assumed position of co-chair of the RNC, I don't think our party actually cared about that. And I can tell you, your experience in Clarion, I know exactly all about your experience in Clarion and all these other counties over our congressional district when I ran for delegate, and the party leadership doesn't give a shit about actually either of those things.
When you have people that actually care, like Scott Presler.
I got a story about you running for delegate. I saw your signs, right? I have my uncle's brother's name's Daniel Kunselman. And I was like, now I like Danny. Like, I like him. But he's not the type of dude you'd trust to let your dog out. And I'm like, who the hell convinced Danny to run for delegate? I was like, no way, that's like my Uncle Danny, right? She's like, you should call him. I was like, I'm afraid. Like, all of a sudden he got a politics bug, and it's like, he went from selling. Danny's the type of dude that was a truck driver that all of a sudden his pickup would have a pickup full of batteries. Be like, hey man, you want some cheap batteries? This dude's running for delegate. No shit.
At least you didn't dump him in the ocean.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Rob. No, you're great. This is kind of the ongoing question I have, the little didactic Socratic question, if you will. What is the problem?
Like with why we're losing?
Why is all of this happening, Rob? Why? Explain everything. What is the problem?
Okay, so the institutions are globalist, and they see the biggest impediment to their globalist dream as to first world countries, particularly working class and middle class people. So what they want is a return to neo-feudalism. They want the haves and the have-nots, and they'll give you bread and circuses as long as you worship them. But if you don't, they'll turn it off. They almost view themselves as a separate species in us. So they see the biggest problem to them achieving total success is in particularly the United States and the middle class of the United States. And so the way that you beat that is you make people financially dependent on the government. You take away small business owners, which is exactly what they did under things like the virus and all of that stuff. And you erode national pride and national borders. When you look at it like that, everything that they're doing makes sense. That's what's going on here. And so that's their goal. The way they win is by keeping people ignorant and keeping people compliant. The way we win is by showing people the truth. That's why we don't have to advocate for censorship. That's why we don't have to advocate for any of this sort of stuff. We don't have people on our side that are working with X or working with YouTube, our government agents working with them to censor people we disagree with. We don't need to do that. The more the truth is out there, the more we win. That's where my philosophy of debate comes from. I'm not afraid to debate the left, one, because I'm a good debater, but second, because I'm right. So I'll debate them. And the more people that see those debates, yes, their little bubble will say, Rob sucks, he's smooth brain, he's bad. But more and more people that are more centrist are like, wow, yeah, look at that. That's just true. And so that to me is what's going on. Now, the question is, how do we do a better job fighting that? And I'll be honest with you, politically, sometimes it's pretty grim. I think we have better chances culturally. I think people waking up and saying, did you guys notice Pride Month much this year? Not as much as last year.
That was
Definitely
honestly
true.
the reason for my question earlier of what your basis was. Is it policy or is it culture? Because I don't see any way forward where policy solves any of the problems we deal with.
Well, and then
the way
fundamentally,
I argue is sort of in between. But yeah, certainly I think that culture is far more important than policy. I think that I'll not to be like grim or blackpilled here, but let's say Trump wins. Like, you think, is he going to do what's necessary?
You're
No,
speaking to
clearly
a
he couldn't do it all.
Hungarian. We're the most black-pilled people there is. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
black-pilled, but your country's in
So
a better
here's
place than
a
ours.
different, equal and opposite way of asking the same question, I think. The world you want to live in, Rob, what does it look like?
I want to live in a world where there's as limited as a government presence as possible. I want to live in a world where our borders are secured and the government exists purely at the pleasure of providing for the citizens of this country, and that people have more freedom and less guide rails. So I'm okay with the most limited of possible welfare states to help people that truly need help and can't do anything more. But there should be incredible pressure on people, both through the law and through culture, to encourage people to get back up on their feet to the best of their ability. Clearly, there are people that legitimately need help. I'm not heartless, but I think that that's the world I want. And I want a world where people can disagree. I don't want everyone to agree with me. I think that'd be boring as shit.
Yeah.
But that's what I want. Limited government where people basically achieve through their own talent and through their own competency, as opposed to sort of government intervention that then it's all about who you know and whose wheels you can grease.
And Rob Noerr, you're now the king of this world. You have people that are endowed naturally through no accomplishment of their own with certain superior abilities, and people who are not endowed with those abilities and now are sort of relegated in this ultra-fair society you've created to never really being able to do anything, because just in a group of people there's gonna be a bottom 1%, and you're talking to the top 1% and the bottom 1%. What do you say to them?
To the top 1%. So you're saying the top 1% have earned
So
it, or they have?
you've won the battle. You've created this fair world, this meritocracy with all the nuance and subtleties, and people are different people, different days, things like that. But assuming you've managed to create this, you now have this elitist class, this hierarchy, right, of people that are the top, the cream of the crop, but they haven't really earned it. They're just statistically, there's gonna be a 1%. And then the same thing, you have the people on the bottom who probably won't in real life ever actually realize they're in the, but let's say they do.
Okay, so the
So
people
you're
at the top-
ultra fit. It's kind of the same as imagine people bitching at God, Rob.
Got it. Okay. That's a good question. Okay, so the people at the top, I'd say something like,
Why
this.
me?
Look, wait, right. You've gotten here, however how you've gotten here, who cares? You're here, right? What makes someone something that will last throughout eternity? What makes someone truly great? And all of your wealth, whatever, you have it. I'm not going to force it away from you. However, you should ask yourself, how could you use your power for the benefit of society? How could you use your power to help civilization as a whole? And that should be where your sense of pride comes from. First, your family, and second, your society. And so instead of us coming, we're not going to come and force you. We're not going to take your shit through taxes, other than the bare minimum we need for, the limited services that we have. We're not going to force you to do anything. You should want to achieve that greatness on your own. No one should have to tell you. I envision a world where people, as much as we celebrate, great ability in athletics and things like that. Instead of, one company celebrating that they bought out another company, that shit all still happens. But that you're bragging to, Elon Musk is bragging to, Warren Buffett about how he just put people on Mars and how that's going to increase civilization. That's what I want. That's the sort of bragging rights that I want.
Ayn Rand was right for the most part.
That's-
Let me
I like
try to trip you up again here. Let me throw it a different way. Where does the board that the game is being played on end, and the world in which it exists begin? And what I mean by that, I think you maybe already know. But so Destiny and the Firefighter is a great example of where does the board end, and the you're no longer playing the game, and you need to recognize that you're not playing the game. But I mean, does the board end, or is it all there are no rules, might makes right? I don't know. What do you think?
That's one of the greatest philosophical questions. So to answer your question,
well, I'll put the screws. We're running down to the final 15 minutes of the show, and it's a 15-minute kind of question if we go that long or whatever. Yeah. But I think the one flaw. You say so many things, and I've started to watch a good deal of your content, and I know you're at the mercy of needing to make noises come out of your mouth. It's what you do. So not holding you to any of that, I think you're a remarkably consistent person from what I've watched, and so what you've espoused today as your sort of MO, it makes complete sense to me, and based on what I've watched, I think you're definitely following that MO. So, I don't think you're full of shit at all. I think you're a straight shooter. But
you already think higher of me than my wife. So doing good there, yeah.
Well, you're in pursuit of something that's very close to or similar to what I've in pursuit of, and I'll leave it at that. But that's a question for me. Is so you sit down to play a game of chess, and I think you're the kind of guy. You and I could play a very nice game of chess because we would both be in agreement that the game of chess exists specifically on this board, in which pieces are moved around. What I would not do, and what I don't see you doing, is like jumping up from your chair, running around behind me when it's my turn, and telling me I'm a faggot in my ear, whispering, or just anything to just do some sort of non-chess-based move. You have some people that would argue, that ain't chess. Stop doing that shit. You have other people, and I think Bobby Fischer is one of them, who would say, fuck yeah, that's part of chess. That is part of the game. You want to play a best of 7? That's part of the game. You want to play best of 5? We're playing a different game now. Best of 3? That's a different game. So you get the idea. Are you? And so I don't think any smart person I know, and you're one of them, would be like, if you've got to play a game, do you want to restrict that game to this board in the middle of the wider world you live in, or is the wider world you live in a part of that game? And the way you answer that question becomes very different. So in one version, you can only win chess by playing chess on the board. In the other version, you just punch the other fucking guy in the face and knock all his... I'm suspicious, and somewhat, I think I'm right, that the reality of this game is the punch the guy in the face version of it. How do we deal with that?
It's difficult, right? So here's my answer, my short answer. I wouldn't punch the guy in the face, but if you were standing next to me and punched him for me, I'd say, I guess that's my short answer.
What if your child was behind you and, see what I'm saying?
But then you're talking, so there is a philosophical principle for times that you're allowed to eschew your own principles for a greater good. So, for example, if my child is personally being harmed, there is no action I would be unwilling to take to help him.
Well, so if your child will eventually have to play that same game, but they're not playing it yet, are they being harmed?
No. That's the difficulty. They
right?
may be, but I have to be 100% certain that would be the case, or it would be unethical.
Well, if you know for a fact that they're gonna have to play,
it becomes think of what the implications are of answering in the affirmative here, right? This gets back to the old. You remember Richard?
I know, maybe I'm a cow, but see that I think you and I both know.
Is it okay to punch a Nazi? Right? Isn't this the same argument? Well, because I know that Nazi is going to throw Jewish people in gas chambers eventually if they get their way. So I could punch him now to stop it.
Would you kill baby
And then
Hitler?
If you're like, okay, ethically, I could understand that. And they say, oh, and by the way, you're a Nazi. So now I could ethically punch you.
But what
And
if
that's
they
where-
were a Nazi?
No, I still say no. Not unless they're directly physically harming you. So someone asked about the Bundy Ranch. Once they came to Bundy's property, yeah, he has the right to defend himself. But did he have the right to prematurely, like, head to a courthouse armed? Did he have the right to go to ATF agents' homes and threaten them and their family? Probably not.
Do you think
And it's-
rights are objectively extant things?
No.
I agree, but
We pretend, but I don't think so.
well, so what is this game? Is there a board in a room and we're safe on the board, or is the room part of that chess game? I don't know. I don't know the answer to you, and I think you and I would have a lot of cool. Yeah, go ahead.
It's my answer is just at the end of the day, I have to look myself in the mirror. That's it. And if I have a God that I answer,
There it is.
I have to answer to myself and my family. And so I operate within those parameters. And what that influences how I decide to act on these things. Let's say that I could know for a fact that if I just blatantly lie, like I could make up this story and say, actually, one time I ran into Kamala Harris and she like punched my kid in the face, right? And if I somehow could see in a crystal ball and that would ensure Kamala Harris lost the election, would I do it? Would I blatantly lie using my kid's name? I don't know. To me, I say, I don't know. Now, maybe I could see further than that crystal ball, and I know that Kamala Harris winning directly leads to the death of my kid.
Right.
And I'd probably say, yeah.
Well,
there's all
okay,
these-
here's a non-crystal ball version. You got a bee's nest being formed outside your front door, and you got a little kid. Do you kill the bees?
Yeah,
Why?
because,
You don't
First
know.
off-
They might very well never sting your child.
but they're not human.
Is the child allergic to bees?
Right. That'd be different. That'd be like,
No, I think
what
Rob
if
made a
it's
very
some-
good point. The humanity aspect.
Well, so I'm just being a cunt, all right, and I'm just getting at this idea that I think we need to talk. I don't have the answers. I'm just a monkey who makes mouth noises too, right? I'm a big fucking retard. I'll be the first one to say it. But sooner or later, in this fight that's coming, I think that somebody, so the bee is not human, and there's a potential that it'll sting me, or I don't care about me, but I care about my child, and that will get me riled up. So it might sting my child. I'm just going to genocide those bees. And you say, well, the bees aren't humans. That all makes sense. But what if there's this bee's nest that certainly has 20 fingers and thumbs and toes and stuff, and has forward-facing eyes and grows body hair and, gestates in 9 months? I'm somewhat suspicious that there's a speciation going on that's been going on, that it's not the same species, that maybe we ought to be looking at it like a bee's nest that's grown. I don't know that.
I choose to be optimistic and
Right.
think that that's not the case. And what I'll say is this. I did a live stream the other day, and I put cancel culture and why I'm a failure. And if you watch that video, what I talk about is, I'm like, here's my philosophy, and I'm wrong. The reason that I'll never be the head of our movement is because if I was, I will lose. Because the other side, if you have one side that's willing to use any tactic
Yep.
whatsoever to win,
Know
and the other side that
exactly
restrains
what you
himself,
mean.
and you run that battle a million times over and over, again, the side that's willing to do more will ultimately win.
So it's
I
Nietzsche,
choose-
right? It's be careful when you're fighting monsters, lest you become a monster.
That's right.
And stare long enough into the abyss stares also back into you. You do not want to become the abyss, is what I'm gathering.
That's part of it. And the other part of it is just that I have ethical principles that I'm trying to stand by. And even if I acknowledge that they'll probably lose, when I look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day, I could be satisfied with who I am. And I know that my principles and my authentic arguing the way I am will move the ball in the direction of the people that will eventually
Yeah,
win.
so I think I know the answer, but would you sacrifice yourself if you knew it would guarantee a positive outcome for everybody, in a sense?
Yeah.
I mean, your
let me be
family
clear.
and children are included in that. If you
Yes,
don't...
I would do it for my family.
Now, would
for
you
certain.
sacrifice your principles? See?
Because it's different. Because would that be a...
If
then
it
gets
if I could somehow get, I know this is a thought experiment, but if I could somehow guarantee you that by sacrificing, this is the interesting dichotomy I'm seeing in people that do what you and I do, Rob. Would you sacrifice yourself? Everybody goes, yep. Would you sacrifice your principles? to win that same battle if it was guaranteed to be won, and then you get this hesitation? I don't know the answer to this either, Rob. It's a really, really tough question.
It depends on the level. Like,
Right?
There's levels to all of this stuff. Like, for example, does that mean my family goes from being comfortable and living to being 75 to being extremely wealthy and living to being 80? Or does it mean?
Okay. Let me say it like this: the thought experiment is 20 generations in the future. If by sacrificing your values temporarily, you guarantee their freedom, one day they will sit there and have the freedom to do whatever they want. I know you'd sacrifice your life for that. Everybody has no problem. Yeah, 100%. I would. Your values, though. If you know that's what's going to happen. There's a
utility in the hypothetical, but the hypothetical could never be realized. And then there's other questions to be had, like for example, let me put it to you this way.
I'm listening.
Is it not true? Like, I think that we were sort of making this point earlier, that because people argue in different ways and have different specializations, that all of these things there are people out there that will meme the shit out of this election, and they're doing something. Right? It's not me. I'm not doing really the meme shit, but there are meme lords that are doing that. That's going to do something.
It does.
Does that mean everyone should be a meme lord? No. Is there utility in having people that are sticking by their principles and then other people that are fighting harder? I think so. So I'm not so sure that there would be any guarantee that if I pick up the phone and say, hey, that Home Depot lady right there, that fucking lady right there tweeted something out, fuck her, get her fired. Am I helping? Is that sacrificing of my principles going to move the needle? So I know, as a matter of fact, 20 generations from now, that my ancestors will be better off.
That's
I don't
a
think so.
phenomenal answer, and I do tend to believe the same thing, is that you're not the only person on the planet.
I got one more question.
Yeah,
I wanna
go
ask
ahead.
Rob, before we get out of here. Sorry,
No, fire away.
I feel like we've been having a conversation on this podcast of where things are going. I want to ask the question of how we got here. If you look at history and you look back at the Revolutionary War, the Stamp Act, which is the reason for the revolt starting, was enacted in 1765, over 10 years before the actual Declaration of Independence was signed. So I guess my question is, what is our Stamp Act do you see that got us to this point where we're at now?
Oh, creature from Jekyll Island, right?
The
Federal Reserve Act, the income tax. I think that was, if you could point to something that's a direct linear line to where we are now, the idea that we sort of devalued our currency, made a fiat currency, taxed people's work and income. I think that starts the slippery slope to where we're at now, because it's sort of like, think about the idea of taxing your income. Think of how insane that would have sounded to our forefathers, right? And like, once you start down that bridge and you realize then that we're just a cog in a machine, that every part of your life's just to be sort of part of this federal government. And that's antithetical to everything the founding fathers thought about. What made America the greatest country in the history of the world was it was premised on the idea of the individual, right? And that if you wanted to come here and you tamed this savage land for you and your family, then so be it. You earned that, right? And it was, you didn't have to be a king. You didn't have to be a lord. None of that mattered. You could, through the sweat of your own brow, succeed. So for me, that's one that I always looked at: the Federal Reserve, the income tax, sort of fiat money. That's where I see directly leading to so much because once they controlled the financials, then it was just a matter of time before they controlled the culture. And I think, that's where I see it. I think you could draw a line directly from sort of the fall of the Soviet Union and how academics decided that instead of Marxism just being about economics, it could be about everything. And so there's a lot of good reading you could do on this, where you had all these postmodernists and Marxists that went to places like California, and they said, I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of California like in the 70s, but it's super conservative, Republican, like good-looking
Reagan was the governor, yeah.
Hollywood used to be conservative itself too, yeah.
Yeah,
People forget
and so
that.
when you see that, what I've read was that these Marxist professors were furious. Why are all these people happy? What's going on? How can we make them miserable? And that's what they sought to do. That's how you control a society. That's part of what the globalists are doing. That's why they want to erode national identity. Everything that you would say makes us come together and makes this country great, they have to demonize. And that's why the idea of nationalism is a bad thing. Why? Yeah. Nationalism's great. You should be just like you should care more about your house than any of the houses in your block and your family. You should care more about your country than any other country. You should think it's the best. That doesn't mean you intentionally cause harm to others, but you absolutely should prioritize. And all of this shit that they're doing, I draw a direct line from that, to where it's like they've separated us in these identity politics to break us down, and it's just more and more perverted versions of that every day. I hate to admit this, but we're maybe not even 5 years out. We're 5 years out from that plus an LGBT. There's going to be a category that's hard to talk about because of terms of service that's going to be real offensive to us five. But we're going to talk more and more how we need to legitimize it. It's coming, and it's how could you get there? Even in the 80s, if I would have told you that, you would have said, what? One of the greatest clips I remember seeing just culturally in a long time was when Dennis Prager's on Bill Maher's show in like 2018 or something, and he's like, they're saying that men can menstruate, and Bill Maher's like, that's
they all laughed
absurd.
at him. They all laughed. They all laughed.
And now here we are.
Oh, it gets way older school than that. Wrong one there. G.K. Chesterton has my favorite one. Chesterton, grass is green.
Rob, but you gotta say it like Dennis Prager, and you gotta say they're allowing men to menstruate.
They are allowing men to menstruate.
G.K. Chesterton, this was over 100 years ago. We shall soon be in a world in which a man may be howled down for saying that 2 and 2 make 4, in which furious party cries will be raised against anybody who says that cows have horns, in which people will persecute the heresy. Whoa.
Get that out of there.
The heresy of calling a triangle a three-sided figure, and hang a man for maddening a mob with the news that grass is green. He saw it coming quite a while ago. I'm a huge fan of G.K. Chesterton.
John, have you considered?
I'm unaware. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, it's a great quote, and it's the honest to God truth that we are in a post-truth society.
That guy was well ahead of his time, but there was enough evidence in the early 1900s, over 100, that this stuff all rolls along so much slower than you realize. And you're about my age, Rob, but these guys are all 20-year-old usses.
That's the problem, though. People like us are 5 years ahead of your average person.
Well, I think what we're doing right here is awesome. Is that we're creating a point of contact, a point of communication that's separated by 20 years temporarily in time, and that's really good. It's good for you guys to hear people like me and Rob talk about. This was the same. This was
will
different.
be talking to my son 20 years from now.
Exactly. That is why Rob and I are happy to do it, is because we understand the big picture. And so one day, you're like he and I both know, you're going to sit here one day, and then 20 years later in the next spot, and so on and so on. Yeah. I don't think it can be won without developing that sort of strategy that gets passed on that way. Really quick, Lord of the Reed. John, have you read any H.L. Mencken? Well, at times confusing, the dude is based and hilarious. I have not.
I've never heard of him either.
I've heard of him, but I haven't read him.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there to read. Don't ever let anybody flex on you by being obscure what it's worth. But
John, since Mihaly got to ask a closing question, can Danny and I ask a closing question?
You're cut off. That's the end of the show. That's it for... No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, Rob, something I wanted to get into regarding...
Jack. Now, Jack. I remember how this show started. I remember your first question.
It's gonna be quick. So, Rob, something I wanted to get into with you regarding the Kamala Harris campaign is, who do you think she'll pick as her VP?
Oh, that's actually
great question.
That's the question I wanted to ask too.
Danny and I were having a debate over it because he seems to think that Josh Shapiro is going to be chosen. I think he's too good of a governor to be chosen, to be quite honest. I think he understands that the Kamala Harris campaign is...
Are you asking him a question, or are you doing what feminists do when they ask Trump questions, Jack?
Okay. Who do you think he's going to pick? Because I think he's going to pick Mark Kelly.
Let me dispel Jack's thing.
I see. So you're doing what feminists do when they ask Trump questions. Go ahead, preach.
I was going to say, as the fellow Pennsylvanian...
Just kidding.
I wasn't sure that you were... You're actually particularly from a very similar region of Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro, he doesn't get shit from our rural population nearly as much as you would think.
But he still got 60% of the vote.
No, so what I'm getting at is he won. Nonetheless, Doug's campaign wasn't exactly the best. I still like Doug Mastriano, but he wasn't going to win. Fundamentally, Josh Shapiro won by 20% of the vote in Pennsylvania, and I'm concerned that his candidacy as VP poses a very potential threat to Trump winning Pennsylvania.
Right, and if I were to make my case...
Let Rob
briefly,
talk.
Really briefly.
I'll just say real quick, I think it's going to be Shapiro. The only thing holding Shapiro back is that he's Jewish, and so we'll see how these Palestinian protests go, because if I think Shapiro is objectively the best person for them for the swing state that they need most. And so I think they would go with him. The only consideration at this point is going to be they need to shore up the more radical wing of their base that hates Israel. And maybe because Josh Shapiro's Jewish, that they think that that'll lower enthusiasm for those people and then it'll end up hurting them in enough of other states. But yeah, I mean, I think Kelly's not a bad idea. Bashir's not a bad idea as well. I don't think it's going to be someone like Newsom or Buttigieg. I just think that those are names. They're going to want a name that seems more calming because the narrative on Kamala Harris rightfully is going to be that she's extreme. So they're going to want someone who seems like someone that could calm down sort of centrist or more rural voters. And I think Shapiro does that. I think you're absolutely right, Daniel, that even though I have a lot negative to say about Shapiro, he's not hated like Tom Wolfe was.
No, you don't hear the vitriol towards Shapiro. That I mean, fundamentally coming from a place of like pure honesty is my dad is a very conservative man. But he has no bad things to say about Shapiro's treatment of the Pennsylvania State Police, where he's employed.
And see, that's why I have the opposite look at this, because I think with a swing state like PA, it helps to have a governor like Josh Shapiro there, and that's why I think, just like how Gavin Newsom won't accept the nomination if it's handed to him.
That was my bad.
I think he's going to, like Josh Shapiro, recognizes that he has a better chance in 2028 for presidential chances because he won't be signing on to a half-assed campaign like Kamala Harris. And that's why I think Mark Kelly, who isn't as well liked as Josh Shapiro compared to his home state of Arizona.
They'll like that.
Yeah, so that's the mentality I have.
But my thought on Mark Kelly is that they don't need a Sunbelt representative on the ticket they need a Rust Belt representative on the ticket. They need somebody who's going to deliver one.
And the unions don't like Mark Kelly. I will give you that. They don't like him.
I don't buy this argument too much that like if Shapiro attaches on as VP and they get blown out, say that negatively affects his chances, because all that matters in the Democratic Party is appealing to the establishment, to the donor.
I don't know about that,
right?
though.
And
do you not think that Pete Buttigieg being a part of Biden's administration has hurt him in the long run in his political career?
Well, yes, but that's because he's been part of an administration that's failed, right? Being part of a campaign that fails would
but
like, for example,
what would Kamala Harris, Ben Shapiro, or
Bill Clinton lost his first election?
What would that look like if they were in the future? Would they not be continuing the same policies?
Well, yeah, but the goal is. So the idea is then, is Shapiro saying, I think someday I'll be president, so I won't take vice president? Like, let's say Shapiro's calculus is that. I think we'll win. Me and Kamala will win, right? But I think she'll be a terrible president, which hinders my chances. No, there's no way that's his calculus. If you're guaranteed to be vice president, you're taking that spot.
I think that would be the calculus of someone more like Gavin Newsom, who has that stardom to him, where someone like Josh Shapiro, I keep saying Ben Shapiro, Josh Shapiro would jump into there just to have that opportunity to get his name out there in the public. I kind of agree with you, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Josh is inherently a ladder climber, though. He went from county level office to state rep to AG to not even being committed to finishing his term as AG and then running for governor. I wouldn't put it past him to accept 2 years into his governorship a VP nomination.
He has ambition for sure.
Yeah. And if he loses the election, right, what the narrative will be, he was the stabilizing figure that sacrificed sort of his governorship for the Democratic Party. He's going to get a lot of thumbs up from the people that run the Democratic Party. So I think he would take it.
Thing to me, and I asked you this, if that means he has to resign as governor.
No, I don't think he has to. Not that I'm aware of. I don't think he has to resign as governor to run a campaign. And
if he would win,
if he wins, he would have to resign that position.
Yeah. Okay.
But he would still have 2 more years to prove himself to the Democratic elite that he's still functioning in Pennsylvania at full capacity. And we know damn well he's cruising into re-election. You don't win by 20%.
That's what I'm saying. From a selfish standpoint, if he were to win, it'd be almost nice to have Pennsylvania's governor race now fall on a presidential election year as opposed to every other 2 years.
It would be nice. But then this is the only... We're never going to take the governorship in Pennsylvania back for at least a decade and a half.
I disagree with Josh Shapiro on law policy, but he has shown himself to be a pretty formidable opponent when it comes to like governing as the governor. Like he's pretty much bought out the police here because of the budget that he's been providing them. But
the attacks on him should be as AG.
Yes.
The line of attack on him is when the chips were down. Anyone when times are good could be a good governor. And there hasn't really been many crises in Pennsylvania, But when COVID hit, what was he doing?
He
Well,
did
he was part of the
not-
Tom
yeah.
Wolf administration that was threatening businesses for opening up, and he was marching with Black Lives Matter, violating Tom Wolf's own executive orders. Those are the attacks but even that's weak. I mean, let's be honest. People got short memories.
Wasn't he
And
one
Well,
of the?
it's crazy to think about that people knew that at the time, 2020. I rode around, you would see impeach Wolf signs, but yet he still won by 20%. It's because of those inner city Philadelphia areas where God knows what happens.
Well,
election
and
night.
Tom-
Ballot harvesting,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah,
What's
Pennsylvania
changed?
is all Philly and Pittsburgh.
Well, no, not.
How
I
the
would
hell
make
was not
no.
one person in the Pennsylvania GOP committee, not one of the leadership have resigned in shame?
That
dude,
is-
they're furious
yes.
with me because I've got a chance to talk to them, like some of them, and I let them have it. And like, there's a video of me somewhere arguing with one of the county commissioners where I was just like, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
I was like, you should lose your job. Every single one of you should lose your job.
Yes,
You
everybody-
lost to a vegetable in John Fetterman.
In PA state committee leadership, there is a few people, like my friend Darlene Smale is the chairwoman of Armstrong County and was a delegate to the RNC. Darlene got kicked off a state committee because she would stand up for conservative values. But fundamentally, like, the PA GOP is corrupt beyond, and I wouldn't even say corrupt.
terrible.
I would just say, to this extent, incompetent in their capacities to win elections effectively. There was no reason why, after Doug Mastriano won the party nomination, that we shouldn't have moved in lockstep behind him. But instead, there's rumors that our state committee chairman donated money, and I'm not going to say that this is 100% true, but there's rumors that he donated money to Josh Shapiro's campaign.
Right.
Daniel, I'll send you a video. I'll send all of you this video. When I was talking with this county commissioner, we're having this exact conversation. You know what? They were pissed when I'm talking. This is what they're telling me. They're going, well, the problem is Mastriano's running an outsider campaign. And so we all invited him to all these county dinners and he didn't show up. And I was like, okay, then you all should resign. Get behind the GOP candidate for governor because you don't like him. Then get out. And get someone in there. That's the job that you signed up
I was
for.
at a rural county chairs meeting, this is 2024. This was this year. And I'm not going to rat out which county chairs said what because I still need functioning relationships with them.
Right.
But 2 years post Mastriano, we're still shitting on the Mastriano campaign. And I think that it's entirely inappropriate insofar as they are the ones that want to preach to us about party unity. Like, I have no quabbles about us disagreeing as a party.
There were tremendous things about the Mastriano campaign, though, and I think you got to look at it more of like Mastriano is our Ron Paul, whereas Ron Paul, you don't have
His entire
Trump
problem
without
is that
Ron
he
Paul.
wasn't-
He had such a great grassroots campaign that we are now
Which the
using in this
establishment
election.
hates.
They did not want
GOP
to.
established.
They did not want to give him any money at all.
Oh, I
That's the
hate
main
to
problem.
do it.
But we're now using that grassroots.
I hate to
Hey,
do
I didn't
it.
get to finish my point.
I hate to do it.
Hey, stop.
I hate to do it.
We will take all your cigarettes.
I hate to do it.
Okay, we can
I
talk
hate
to
to
Rob
do it.
later. We can talk to Rob after.
This is an awesome show for the reasons I'm actually genuinely hating to shut it down. We're at 7:15 now, and I'm seeing the future happening in front of my eyes in an awesome way, which is all of us getting together at Studio State College, getting paid for it.
Studio Center.
Studio Center, shit, that's right. You can't use
Can't use
college.
college. Don't say that, man.
We could have if we wanted to wait, Mihai, but I didn't want to wait. We had
If it
to,
meant having
Is
to
it-
go in front of the borough council, I
yeah,
was in
it
on
would have been like
I
a
would've been on it.
7-year process.
Is it center with an ER or an RE?
RE, dog, you know.
Based.
Yes, I know. You know it's incredible. You know I use the incredible spelling. Rob, you're not too far from us. I might drag these assholes up on some sort of camping trip outside of your whatever
Cook
door.
Forest, baby.
You mean
whatever,
my backyard, John? You mean my backyard?
Whatever door you leave unlocked or something. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. I'll know. I'll just probably be able to look at your house and
Any
be like
guy that's
that
got
one.
a big Lebowski behind him, he's cool with me.
That's right.
That's right.
You'll find it, yeah.
You, I really appreciate your intelligence, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, but your understanding. I think you understand better than the other three guys on this screen kind of what we're trying to do here. You know, that's just life experience. Yeah, we're old fucks. What are you going to do?
Right.
Someday they'll have to bear this burden, and hopefully we'll be dead by then, and we'll have a beer in whatever afterlife we go to. Maybe it'll be the Egyptian one, Rob. We don't know.
Take it. You know, no Valhalla for me.
Maybe
I
it'll
don't
be
think
Karen
I've-
taking us across the river Styx, you know. Who fucking knows? But this is incredible. I'd really like to keep this going. I know you're out there doing your thing, whether or not anybody tells you to or not. So I love that about you. And I think, Rob, you're definitely a guy you can throw questions at, and you're going to give Rob Noerr's genuine answer, which is extremely rare. And I want to pay you personally the highest of compliments for being that kind of person. Although you might have just happened to be born that way, so maybe you don't deserve any credit, you know. But I think
genetics, yeah.
Yeah, you understand that as well. I hope we get to keep in touch. Thank you so much for taking 2 hours out of your day to do this with us outside of your regular job. You're an inspiration, I think, to these guys as well. Your knowledge is astounding. Everybody, please, you are sleeping on Rob Noerr. The internet in general is sleeping. There it is. On Rob Noerr's, at Rob Noerr on Twitter, but he's got TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. I'll get these links in the description
I don't use
as well.
Instagram for shit. I don't know why that's still up
I know. I've been fighting these guys about the very same thing.
It's general disconnect.
Yeah, Danny, where's the account?
That's so funny that you say that.
Yeah.
It's a generational disconnect.
Jack, some of us
But
corporate slave jobs.
we are just getting started. You three guys, I highly suggest you watch what Rob had to say in this show again and any other time he's talking. He has an awareness not just of the actual topics, but he's looking at himself while he's doing this. That might not make sense yet, but someday it will. A ton you can learn from this guy. Rob and I have no financial arrangement. We don't know each other at all. I have no reason to talk so highly of him. If I have any skill, it's noticing when people are worth talking highly of, and Rob Noerr is one of them. So I highly encourage you guys to check him out. Rob, we will keep in touch as much as we can in about a month here or so. I hope we'll get more serious. But thank you, as always, for taking the time to join us. We owe you one. We'll pay you back as soon as we can.
Appreciate it,
It's
Rob.
my pleasure. It was my
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
I'm going to head out and be fit phobic now. Making fun of all you thinner
You
people.
fat motherfucker, Rob!
That's right.
You fat fuck!
Can't wait. Everyone in my chat's 400 pounds. We're going to fucking shred you as soon as
We got to get together in real life at some point. I think you and I would actually be bros. So take it easy, Rob. Thank you for joining us. Rob Noerr, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for being a fantastic first guest at the Cider House.
Yes, first Cider
Loved
House
it.
guest.
Honored to do so. Great to meet all of you. Thank you so much.
Honestly,
All right.
yeah, we literally met 10 minutes before we started this, and that was a super genuine
All right, I'm
conversation.
closing the Zoom, Rob. Take it easy.
See you guys.
All right, we're ending the Zoom meeting. There it goes. Oh, that looks funky. So back over here. Gentlemen, it is, we went 20 minutes past. That was really awesome. I really am not fucking talking shit about Rob Noerr. So he actually kind of, I'm some wise old man who should be teaching you guys, but I think most of you understand. He has his zone, right? He's a fucking master of it, especially when it comes to debating. Looking at you, Jack. About twice your age, Rob. Listen to him. Listen to these guys who have been there. This guy's debate. Not that you weren't going to anyway. But he's awesome. I hope we get him down in the Studio State College with us here in the next month or so. Maybe we'll get a Rob Noerr show going.
Maybe.
At the studio. How cool would that be?
Pretty cool.
I'd be down with that. Final words, gentlemen. Oh, Jack Kentner.
Putting me on the spot here. Don't let your memes be. Oh wait, no, that's your line. That's your line. That's your line. My bad. My bad.
Jack. At Jack_Kentner on X. We got to come up with a little branding phrase. So I got you guys all hats. They're on the way. I'm not going to tell you what they
still
say.
Big finger?
No.
Oh.
It's tiny finger.
Tiny finger.
It's micro finger.
Yeah, don't hype yourself up like that, Jack.
In fact, Jack, I just went full. I just went small penis.
Well, that's it. It's completely inaccurate.
No, yours is all right. Danny's the only one. Danny's gonna have a choice of two.
Is it the FN word?
We're not doing that. We're not. Nope.
Final words, you guys. You're on your way to being somebody. You need to start coming up with catchphrases and your own custom T-shirts. And whoa,
that was actually pretty cool.
I don't know what I hit.
That's gonna be our outro from now.
I honestly think the show, the computer's shutting down. It's being like, all right, guys, it's time to stop. Our viewers are all leaving. They're like, this show ended 5 minutes ago. Awesome job. About 1 month out for the Hardcore World Champion fans, we're going to have one of the coolest shows on the internet related to politics with some financial backing and an actual place to do it out of and all that. That's looking roughly still holding for the end of August. So about a month away. Jack, Danny, Mihaly, thank you for coming to another episode of the Cider House. Mihaly especially, thank you for dealing with that fucking couch and that camera.
Oh, that's what I'm here for. I'm just a guy. I don't deserve anything better than a couch.
We're
So
putting-
I'm happy to be here, and I'm thankful
That's
for the
not.
opportunity.
Before the show started, he was a prima donna.
That's
He's
not
like, you
true.
fucking
That
piece
is
of.
not
I'm on the
true.
couch again.
Not true.
God,
I will say
what?
I will say the couch was delegated to me when I wasn't even here, which is kind of fucked
I'll
up.
How
take
did
it,
you-
I'll
but-
take it next time.
Was it
I'll
just
take
because
next
you
time
were
if
the
want.
last one to show up on the first time we did it? Is that how'd you end up on the couch?
I don't know. I
No,
don't know.
I think I just
didn't
texted
really
the
care, I
group
don't
chat
think.
saying I'm taking the seat by John.
Danny was the only one who wanted a seat.
He's the only one that hasn't been on the couch yet. I will say that.
No,
Because-
you know what it is? It's because I'm the only one that doesn't look like a white ghost over here on this cut. Yeah.
Mia's the only one who gets
was about
outside.
to
I
make
got
a
that
joke.
Eastern European skin.
I was about to make a joke about the fact that like now I see where all the like pink skin paintings come from in Eastern Europe.
They were just using cheap webcams the whole time. is what you-
100%. They
You
knew
look at-
something.
You
we
got a little
didn't.
bit. You actually are you pink or are you just crappy lighting?
No, it's just
you-
crappy
I got
lighting.
rosy cheeks. I do.
No, that's the crappy can. You don't look like that to my eyeballs at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the. We got to get you the. It's not just nice cameras we have, but I also got a little fancy lens on there. Look at that. Look at that fucking. Look how out of focus it gets when you just get right out of the sweet spot.
You
It's
know
like a
what's
human
never
eyeball.
out of focus? That jacked Donald John Trump.
I'm sorry. What?
The flag behind you. You.
I'm sorry. What? He is out of focus.
He's never out of focus.
Oh,
here.
he's always. I think technically he's always out of focus. Michelle Schellberg, thank you for this flag. The Center County GOP
Oh,
chairwoman.
that's the one that you took from the office.
No man, you took it. You wait.
I didn't take
Well,
it.
he didn't take it. He didn't take it, but it was in the
She
office.
said they Trump campaign gave it to her, I think, and she's like, "What the fuck am I gonna do with this Trump Rambo flag?" And I was like, "I have like 40 uses for that. I can think of a million ways to use that flag. Can I have it?"
No man, no woman, no commie is gonna stop Trump or our movement.
No commie can stump him. Don't stump the Trump. You guys are too young to remember. Can't stump the Trump. That's where the whole
not.
centipede thing came from.
I was in high school during 2016. I heard. I knew
Is
all
that
about
like
it.
our version of Can't Cuck the Tuck?
Can't cuck the tuck? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the whole meme of the Donald on Reddit and that got banned and how we were all called
Oh, yeah.
centipedes?
Yeah, I remember that.
That's from an old Can't Stump the Trump video. That's it, though. All right. Final thoughts. Again, Rob Noerr. Check out his. I think I still have it up. Yes.
Yep.
Rob Noerr's going to be somebody someday. I can almost guarantee it if the world is just anyway. So I would highly recommend checking out his content. Oh, I don't know why it does that.
I like this outro. That's a good outro.
It is kind of cool. These three gentlemen will also be somebody someday. Follow them. Me, John Ward, I will not be anybody. Why does it do that? Why you doing me like that? I know why. I just realized it. That's why. That is why. That is it for today. I am John Ward. I think Orange Cat Good is chosen now to come rub on my leg and fuck up my outro. What's your sign off? Wait. What's your sign off, Danny?
I don't know yet. We've got to develop one.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll come up with a racist one for you.
Bro.
All right.
I got one. I got one.
All right, we got one.
I got one. Break one. I may be stupid, I ain't dumb. Crazy crew coming at you, but I take it easy out there. Now, hut!
All right. I got an announcement more so.
All
just,
right, get your announcement out.
If you have topics for us, try leaving in the comments. Danny's going to have an Instagram set up. Try following us on there.
This is
etc.
good stuff.
Yep.
Bro, don't promote it before I make the account.
I
I'm
know.
trying to get you to make it in the first place.
Isn't it amazing how hard it is to time all this shit? I think I figured it out, says Trideca, and welcome back, Trideca, right at the end. Democrats believe in the currency of victimhood, so they vote for an authoritarian. Then they are all serfs, and they all win the victimhood lottery together
So accurate.
forever.
Identity Politics 101.
Oh,
I
man,
agree.
I'm blanking on the name, but as somebody once said, some of them want to abuse you.
They do.
Some of them want to be abused. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
Agree.
So you know that song. So that's still around, huh?
It's memed on like a.
That is it for today. I'm John Ward, and until next time, remember, your world champ. I just realized I need to make an outro video. I only have the intro
Can
video.
the song be Walking on Broken Glass by Annie Lennox?
If we want to get copyright strike, yeah, for sure.
Let's make a remix.
I got to make some more songs, don't I? All right, that's it for today. I'm John Ward. Until next time, remember, you're a world champion. Don't let your memes be dreams. Thanks, Rob Noerr. Thank you, Cider House guys. I'm turning off our microphone. See ya. Woo!
And we are going to make our country great again. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us.